Hello everyone, welcome back. Sorry for the delayed start. I found out on Monday that I was helping out with a vacation Bible school at our church this week, and unfortunately it means that I get home a little later than expected. So, I've got my Mountain Dew, I've got my code, and after a long day, a little bit of coding sounds wonderful. Okay, diving right on it. So, first things first, there's a very important thing. That right there. Version 5.10 has been released. Now, with every release, it is very clear to me that there are issues that always crop up. So, for example, the numeric up-down doesn't line up with other controls. Yep. Not shocking. That was, we kind of pushed it out. We also knew that the numeric up-down control doesn't have the same styles as the other ones. So yeah, like that I was aware of. So there's a few of those things. There is, let's see. Oh, sweet. I didn't realize he opened a PR for this. Oh, that's even better. That's even better. Okay, we were definitely looking at that. I didn't realize that. This one here was the more interesting one. So Michael's been shooting some messages off in our maintainers chat, kind of discussing this. So I kind of have a pretty good idea of what's already in here, but we are going to tag this one up. I believe, and I want to double check. Oh, good, he did, because he said he was going to go update the README and start in on a docs thing. So I'm here and brought coffee and Mountain Dew. Excellent, Pikachu. Excellent. I have my Mountain Dew. And on a very happy note, my, well, hopefully not sleepy after that much caffeine. I found out this week that my brother landed a new job working for Pepsi. Needless to say, my first question involved acquiring Mountain Dew. What a shock. What a shock. Yeah, it made me very happy. He's like, hang on, I just got hired. I'm like, I know. I'll be patient for a little bit. So, but one of the things that I've wanted to do for a while in this project, and I've looked at doing it, and it's not as simple as I had thought every time, is rather than having the wiki page, which is fine, I would much rather move everything inside of the like a docs folder inside of here instead, because then all of the documentation stuff can go through a standard pull request process, because the wiki on GitHub is fine, but you only really have a couple options. You can either open it up and let everyone edit it, or you can lock it down and only let maintainers edit it. It's kind of a Git repo, like you can clone it, right? Like if I move my head over here. Oh, is it? Thank you. Let me adjust it. It is probably related because I have my... Dial that down just a little bit. See if that corrects up. I have an in-wall AC unit. I should probably just see if I can turn it down for a moment. My limiter cuts out to try to keep the background audio from showing up. But see if I can remember how to do this. Helped a bit. Good. Yeah, I dialed it down on my board, but I think part of it is every time I talk, my limiter triggers, and then you also pick up the background noise from my AC unit. Why is this thing not? That's fine. That's what I want, but I want to... Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to work this thing again. So you know what, if I do that, then it'll just turn off. How do I think I just have to let it sit to get it to accept the changes. There we go. There we go. That will probably help dial out a little more. Let me know if that gets better for you, Pikachu. But I'd love to move the wiki page underneath a docs folder at some point. That way it can go through a standard like pull request review process, and it's a little bit easier. Because I have, and I should probably change the footer. I have in the past just left it wide open for people to be able to contribute, which is fine. But then we started to get some bad contributions and I had to revert commits and it kind of got to be a pain. So I locked it back down again. It's like, I don't know. I throw it around. But as part of that, I mentioned it to Michael, and he started down the path of, well, okay, if I'm going to write something new rather than putting it in the wiki, I'm going to go through and just start in on making a nice docs one, which I appreciate. Okay, so a couple things we're going to look at. So how to increase rendering performance. He referenced a docs. He added an FAQ. Great. That part looks good. Let's see here. So home, and this is one of the things that you lose when you go away from a wiki page, is you no longer have a nice, I'm going to move myself over since this is net new. You no longer have a nice kind of navigation bar on the right-hand side. I realize I say right-hand side, my camera's inverted, so right-hand side. And so you end up having to do something kind of like this to do. Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah, I think it's my in-wall AC unit. At some point, I need to figure out a way to cool my office down without it, because in the summertime, it gets warm in here. Okay, so a couple minor things I'm noticing. For Microsoft Learn links, you can actually drop the language portion of it. So for example, if I take this link now without the language part of it, and I just drop it in a new tab, right? Thinking. Come on, Microsoft, don't make a liar out of me. If it loads, come on, there we go. You'll note it then uses the user's browser locale to appropriately populate it. So if we leave the link as is, it'll have ENUS, but if I drop that, it'll then default to whatever language the user's browser's in, assuming Microsoft supports it. So in general, I try to strip language stuff out of my Microsoft links, simply because then it makes for a little bit nicer experience for people whose first language isn't English. Mildly better. Like, I realize the text of the link is still written in English and whatnot, but it's like, you know what, if I can default their browser to a better situation, why not? I am curious about, okay, never mind. I see. I was seeing the chevron at the beginning of the line and being very confused. Let me make that a little bigger for people. But I realized this is using the quote indent, I think is what it's called in the markdown. Okay, go there. Default value is null. Makes the controls sharp and crisp, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So ultimately, the short version of this issue is that the UI element cache mode, the material design library had added a shadow assist cache mode. I think, and this is difficult to remember because some of this predates me, I think this was added a while back when the shadows were added, and I'm surprised this is still called shadow assist. Maybe we should check that, because I thought we renamed shadow assist to elevation assist, but clearly not, because that's there. I'm surprised it's still called shadow for one. So that's potentially a rename that we might want to consider. But the idea here is you can cache the rendered UI element as a bitmap, which can significantly improve rendering performance. But the moment you cache something as a bitmap, bitmaps are, if you think of pixels drawn on a screen, and each pixel just has a fixed RGB value. There's kind of only so much you can do with that. And so if you have like some fancy animations or similar, like you can start to squeeze out a little bit more performance out of some of your WPF controls. But it does often come at the cost of things not always looking as sharp and as crisp as they otherwise could be. So with that said, use it sparingly and as you need to. And part of the issue here was that we had done a fix on several controls, but not, was it tool button or toggle button? Toolbar. And that ended up causing, or I should say, recaused a bug that we had fixed on several other controls. So Michael had proposed a changing of our default value to make it more in line with the default WPF behavior, which I think is great. Yeah, so, and then this render at scale, there's a fancy word here called rasterization. It's where you take, so with, if you imagine drawing a circle, right? In a bitmap, you might just record which pixels are which color to draw that circle. The problem is as you zoom in or zoom out of that bitmap, it starts to look better or worse depending on how many pixels you have and what they're rendered at. Because if you render a high number of pixels, when you zoom way out, there has to be a condensing of what used to be a big number of pixels into a small number of pixels, and we have to figure out how that works. A better way of rendering, and this is how like SVGs work, is they don't record the value of pixels. They basically record the algorithm, or if you're familiar with like geometry, they record the equation of the circle and then can use that to render the right pixels at whatever size you want. So it doesn't matter how far in or out you zoom, it just uses that same equation to go through and do it. Yeah, curves, exactly. And so it gives a much cleaner look. The problem is once you do a bitmap cache, what you're saying is, I would like to throw away that equation and I would like to cache a set number of pixels. Because if you're just going to render the same thing every time, just a bitmap is faster. But if you start scaling things and doing things like that, now you can kind of end up losing stuff. So there is when using things like a bitmap cache, it's not just a feature that you blindly turn on for everything. It's a feature that you turn on when needed as appropriate, right? And it's on a case-by-case basis. Let's see. Increase render at scale will sharpen the control, but also makes it pixelated with drawn smaller. Let's see. Toolkit provides you with an attached property. Shadow says cache mode. Yay! And the big advantage here is our attached property allows for inheritance. So in some cases, and everybody who works with WPF sort of intrinsically understands the idea of inherited properties, but they don't realize it. For example, if you were to set like the background color of something in WPF, you expect that to only apply to the one element that you set the background color on, which is how it works, which is great, right? But there are other properties like font family or font size that are actually inherited. So oftentimes we'll set our font family and font size at our window level, and we expect that to apply to all of our text elements inside the window. That would be an example of a property where inheritance applies. The default UI element cache mode is not inherited, but our attached property in the library is. This means that we can allow people to set the attached property at like the top level control button, for example, or in this case, toolbar, and have it propagate into the elements inside of that, and inside of our control templates, apply it appropriately. Yeah, and he goes into a nice example here of showing how this all gets set up. No, the default value of Shadow Assist cache mode is null. Didn't we just say that above? Oh, no, this was UI element cache mode. This is Shadow Assist cache mode. Okay, good. We have a couple images. Let's just look at these real quick. Copy. There's actually, and I'm tempted. Do I say this or do I not say this? I'll say it anyway. There is what some people will call a security issue with GitHub, is that you'll note this is a PR that hasn't merged, right? And this asset was uploaded underneath this repository without my permission. Anyone can do this. You can open up a PR against any repo that's public. You can open a PR, drag an image up onto it to attach it to the PR, and GitHub will upload it and store it in this assets, and it will exist. And you can't delete it. So it can be so some people have discovered this and use it for malicious purposes. Don't do that. With great power comes great responsibility. Yeah, so there is a beautiful example. I don't know how clear that is to people, but if we do this and this, one of these is significantly clear. Yeah, it is very scary, Pikachu, because the people who were doing it were using it to push out malware, and they were basically able to make the link for it look more legit because it's coming from GitHub, because it's coming from a trusted, I think it was one of the NPM repositories or something. It's coming from a well-known repository. It's a legit thing. It's like, yeah, that's the first part of the URL, but yeah. So I think there was a whole big, long, Twitter argument over it. And a lot of it centered around the discussion of how and when should these things be taken down. And in this particular case, once it was detected as malware, GitHub took it down because it was like, yeah, we don't want to be hosting malware. Fine. But then people started finding other examples of, well, why isn't this taken down? Why isn't this taken? And it becomes a bit of a chicken and the egg chasing down the bad stuff, because that is fairly difficult. Let's see. And look at this. Michael, you did amazing work. We were kind of joking with him on the maintainer chat. We're like, at this point, Michael, you might be our foremost expert on this topic, because he spent significantly more... this is a great example of how simple a change can be, right? It was bitmap cache, and now it's null. That's the whole change. Click. Let's look at what needed to happen in toolbar. I think it was just an application of it. Yeah, so in this case, this change here from having a built-in cache mode to having it be controlled by the attached property is the sum total of it. Right? That's the whole deal. That's the whole deal. Okay. I heard approve. I'm going to hit approve. And then I think what we're going to do... Ooh, that's a little big for me. Dial that down. See, there's all of that. You know what? Rather than waiting for him to do this, we're just going to commit change. Right? And we're going to commit change. And we're going to... It feels wrong to make a suggestion and then commit your own suggestion, but the alternative is I open up the PR and do it myself. We're just going to commit the changes. I think... Is this actually going to do... I think it made... Okay, that made a whole bunch of commits, didn't it? Yeah, that's exciting. Did all of those kick off builds? Yeah, they all kicked off builds. Okay, cancel. We don't need every single one of you running. Not for a text change. Cancel, cancel, cancel. That okay. Maybe I should have opened the PR and just pushed one commit. That would have been smarter. Okay, we're going to enable auto merge, huzzah, huzzah, huzzah. Okay. Let's go check out this numeric control one. This one excites me. Let's see. First of all, nice work. Let's see. Regarding your comment, so let's see. Should we use increase content and decrease content, or remove it? I would prefer to remove it and use the predefined as in time picker. If we ignore both properties, we have to remove it from the code before merging. Let's see. Yeah, let's take a look at what this is, because the intent with the up-down buttons would be that they are treated like other WPF content things and are able to just go up and down as needed. But we'll take a look at the actual changes. So let's see here. So new column, new text block, and this is in the fields lineup. So this screenshot here of all of these. So this is a page that Nikolai added to the demo app. Basically just putting all of these common kind of form fields together on a single place and rendering them next to each other. So it's really, really obvious when something isn't there. So the fact that he went through and added all these, I think is great, right? This is really good work. Okay. At least the images look like really good work. So that's perfect. Okay, so we did a header, great. And then we did numeric up down default, numeric up down floating hint, filled and outline, which are each of the individual rows. So huzzah, great. Let's see. What is this? This is in a handler of some kind. Set value. Value goes to 0. Oh, this must just be used for the initial value setting. Okay, that's fine. That's just demo app stuff. Okay, and then, oh, he even updated the Material Design 3 demo app. Excellent. That's excellent work. Let's see. So I don't mind this rename, though I am questioning if this constant should be renamed to be, like, if we're going to drop the text box field from here, which I think is good, I think we should probably drop it from the constant name too. So we'll leave that one open for a minute because I want to check usage. Let's see here. So we dropped a unused namespace. That's fine. White space cleanup. That's fine. Let's see. And we have style numeric up down. Oh, wow. We didn't even have this in the... Boy, I screwed that up. The generic.xaml didn't have it added. Okay. So that was a mistake on my part. Oh, the namespace that was dropped, was it a dupe? Oh, it is a dupe. Look at that. So unlike C# where we just do a using statement and then the namespace at the top, in XAML, namespaces have names. So for example, this XML namespace is named local, and it is pointed at the CLR namespace, material design themes.wpf. This XML namespace is named WPF, and it's pointed at the CLR namespace, material design themes.wpf. So this is a straight dupe of this. Oop. No, not what I wanted. Bad Copilot, go away. So that's fine. That's just cleaning up my mistake. So I accept. Let's see. And then this is the material design 2 defaults. Pulls that in. Oh, because it was... Oh, it wasn't even in the defaults. Boy, that was really dumb of me. Okay, here's the big guy. And we will probably go check this thing out here in a minute. In fact, this might be easier to review. This might be, yeah, and this guy here is just the UI test failing. Let's go check this sucker out. And because I don't want to review this diff that high up. And I think if we fix that, the constant change, that'll probably fix this one. Okay, so everybody favorite gate cracking. In fact, we might even do some cloud patch stuff here in a little bit, because we need to do some cloud patch stuff. There is a strong desire to have more git cracking content. So sorry, what am I doing here? Align numeric up down. So I would like to add remote and checkout branch. That is the magical incantation that I would like. Great. And now I would like to open up Material Design Toolkit. I will say, so I run Visual Studio Preview builds, and like 98% of the time or so, they're pretty good. Like occasionally I see some small bugs, but they aren't like they're annoying, but they aren't, stop using it type situation. I did run into a bug with last week's release that actually caused me to install regular Visual Studio. I don't see it happening here, but I ran into a problem where Visual Studio was throwing a no reference exception when attempting to load some projects. And it didn't make sense to me, like, which projects they were. It would consistently pick on the same set of projects in a solution, but it didn't, like, the ones that it picked seem arbitrary. I'm like, I don't understand why it's failing on this test project, but not this one. Like, it was weird. But I reported it, and as of yesterday, they marked the fix as pending release. So, huzzah. So, for reference, this is worth noting. If you run into something in Visual Studio that isn't working, there's a little itty bitty, whoop, this guy right here, right? That guy. If you click this, you can hit report problem or suggest feature. Like, these actually get handled. Especially if you spend the effort to, like, type up a decent description and whatnot of what the issue is. Like, they actually use these for stuff. It's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So, for what it is worth, definitely leverage those. Okay. Let's... I already forgot where I was going. I got distracted. Let's see. Numeric updown.xaml. That's where we want to be. So, numeric updown.xaml, not the demo app. I want the... Where is my... Not the Ma apps one. This one. Okay. Right? This is the one. Yeah. And there was the question around specifically the content. So I assume these ones here. Now, the one thing I'm noticing right away, I'm hesitant to leave these as they are, because what this will do is if anyone references this resource dictionary, content increase and content decrease now show up when they use static resource in their app. But they, yeah, so at minimum, I think I want to change this name to like material design, numeric up down content increase or something of that nature. Oh, these are only used in those places. Yeah. I'm trying to remember what the X shared does. Why am I blanking on this? Hang on. X shared WPF. I'm trying to... Sometimes. Okay. Remind me. When set to false, so that request for the create a new instance instead of sharing the same instance. Right. Okay. So it changes it from singleton to transient, basically, in the references. But I still don't like these things effectively being public. Let's do this. So Control KK puts in a bookmark. You can see my little bookmark bar up here is now... Whoop, whoop. What is it? Is it Control Shift? Yeah, Control Shift does my arrows. Okay, I'm trying to learn the arrow keys. So that guy there. So if you Control KK, we'll leave a bookmark, and then we can jump between these. And I'll often use these as ways of just being able to reference things that I want to go back to. Nesting things inside of a style's resources, like a very simple thing right here, would also be to do this. These are still get resolved because they're inside the same style, but they're no longer public outside. So possibly useful, right? But I'm curious why we would leave these here versus just straight inline the values, because these are just style setters. I think we might. I don't understand why I wouldn't do that, but we'll see. Let's see. So nested text box, nested numeric up down style. Great. I am surprised. I guess this does make sense. I was surprised to see both style resources and control template resources. Oftentimes we flatten those because it's not a huge difference either way, but it does slightly matter for when people base their style off of something. Okay. So that seems fine. This is probably a big portion of making sure that everything floats through. Like, yeah, that's a lot. I'm just kind of briefly going to go through these, making sure they line up, because it's very easy when doing these to accidentally get one that's off. Line, prefix. Ripple, suffix, border brush. Internal text field sets is mouse over. Ah, clever. Okay. Priority binding. There's something you don't see very much. So priority bindings walk through a list of bindings, and they will use whichever binding first produces a value in the list. So they basically say first, second, third, and they're kind of like a bunch of if-elses all the way through, only in XAML binding syntax. So let me see if I can remember the rules with a priority binding. If the binding produces like unset due to like the source missing or similar, it'll fall through. I believe it'll fall through on nulls, if I remember right. Looking for the first thing that actually produces a value. I always have to double check it because they aren't something that gets used super often. But this is basically just being able to look at the outside and then fall back to something relative. So this is allowing the time picker assist. I am curious here. I'm not sure we should use time picker assist on this. I'm going to mark this too. Time picker assist is something that I'd be hesitant to use it outside of a time picker. So little hesitant there. I'm more tempted to make a specific one for this. Just from a naming perspective, it gets weird. Oftentimes we tell people if there's attached properties are not discoverable in WPF. You have to know they're there and know to use them. So in an effort to try to mitigate that discoverability problem, we often tell people, hey, it's the control name with assist on the end. That's the attached properties that we've got available for this control. That's usually the guiding principle because then it makes it a little bit easier. Let's see. And then this is just using template bindings up to the style setters. That's fine. And these are just the repeat buttons, stack panel. And this is the standard one. And this looks pretty good. I don't see anything here. A lot of this lines up with what we've done on other styles. Let's see. And then we've got some... Curious why we have... I'm just looking at this. I see. So we've got all these properties here. Then we've got the attached properties and alphabetical ones here. Because we go template down to here. Handles clear command. Handles clear text. Handles clear command. Why am I not? What does this do? The problem with this is being set to true, but so this is another weird thing with attached properties is because attached properties don't necessarily have to do anything. They can just hold data. They don't have to like modify anything in particular. However, attached properties can have this onChanged handler callback, and they can do stuff like add command bindings. That's a thing, right? You can start mucking with the control. And so there's a bit of back and forth about what and how you should use attached properties. Some people really love doing them like this because it gives you a nice, easy way to sort of attach extra behavior to them. Some people would argue WPF behaviors are better. I think attached properties in general should somewhat steer away from changing behavior, but sometimes it's kind of unavoidable, or it's the easiest way to get something done. So I usually go with the idea of if it's obvious that there's behavior, it's fine. If it's not obvious there's behavior, it's not fine. Okay, so this actually works because this is here on this control, but is it forwarded down? I don't think it is. I don't think this is forwarded down anywhere. So setting this thing here isn't going to do anything, is it? Because the attached property is going to be set to true. On new value true, it'll add a command binding, which is fine. So the command binding will get added, but when the command is invoked, oh, I guess the command is going to come up from the text box, so it should land here. We should test this. I believe that's the intent, is it's expected to land here. Because that guy will raise the event, I believe. Yeah, I'll leave a bookmark. We'll come back and check it. Okay, and then we have the floating hint, which is going to be the exact same thing with a slight style change for the nested text box style. I kind of like this is a clever trick. So you'll note that this is the base style, and it kind of has everything. And you'll note it has this nested text box style, right? And if we go here and we hunt the usages of this guy, you'll note this is something that I usually discourage. Is I will tell people that you should rarely use dynamic resource unless something's going to change at runtime. If it's going to change at compile time, use static resource. And so what's happening here is because this is a dynamic resource, that will go and look up the appropriate style, and this guy then gets to sneak in and effectively override the one that's here. Generally, you don't do dynamic resource on a style target. In this case, it's kind of clever, because otherwise you then run into the question of, well, how do I manipulate something on a nested element without just duplicating the entire control? So, and I think Nikolai may have done this on some of the other text box work that he was doing, I think. Maybe. We could double check. But yeah, so it means that the floating hint version of this is basically the exact same as this one, with the only change being, well, I'm going to swap out this style, and because it happens to have the same key as the one used in the base one, it gets picked up. So it's dirty trick, and then it changes a couple setters. So huzzah. Filled looks to be the same exact thing, same style trick, which is great. Toggles up the background and the padding, which makes sense for the filled style, which is kind of the solid color background there. And then the outline, once again, kind of the same thing, just toggling those. Okay, so all of that looks good. Let's fire the demo up and take a look at it. Love me some Mountain Dew. Okay, let's get this guy going. Okay, and so this is going to be fields line up. Actually, you know what? Let's cheat. I want to show something off here real quick. So under the demo app, and this is something that I think a lot of people don't realize. It's very common in ASP.NET Core developers to know this, but sometimes thick client developers don't realize you can manipulate your launch settings.json, right? The fact that this thing says demo app up here, it only says demo app next to my play button because it says demo app in my launch settings.json. And more importantly, you can use these launch profiles to set up like different command line arguments. You can use these to set up different environment variables. There's a handful of things, right? So if I wanted to change this, and say under this demo app profile, I want this environment variable. But there's nothing stopping me from making multiple profiles either, because sometimes you want to launch in different things. So demo app Kevin, right? So I could even go as far as to do something like fields line up, right? And then rather than this being the home page, this would be, what's the name of it? Fields line up. And we don't need environment variables on this one. And now when I hit this drop down, I have two options, demo app and fields line up. So I can literally make me a separate profile so that I don't have to remember what this is. And I can change what it's going to launch to whatever I want. Now, I clearly got that one wrong because it didn't launch to where it was supposed to. So what is, and maybe it's worth making launch profiles. See, where's our command line? Parse command line. All right, so what is startup page get parsed as? Oh, this is using old system command line. I should update it. Let's see. So this pulls back start page just as a string, which is great. Where does it go? Where do you go? Who references you? This guy. So under the main page view model, startup page goes here. And it wants to find the first one where the name matches. Oh, so I probably need to do, the name of this is probably going to be fields line up with spaces. I bet. Color tool, button, toggle. Field line up. Let's just fix that. That's embarrassing. Gonna just add a little S there. Call it good. Okay, so close that, and then if we go back to our launch settings, and then this is going to be a little awkward because we need to escape our quotes so that they work. But now if I do this, now in theory it matches and it goes. Hey, Mr. X, welcome. Just taking a look at, oh, there we go. Just taking a look at a PR for improving the numeric up-down control. Okay, so this is the floating hint. This is obviously none. And this is the filled background. Now, I'm curious. How does that... You could use Humanizer to generate those names. Yeah, that's a good point. And for the demo app, that's not a bad idea. Honestly, like... The library, we try to avoid taking any fun extra dependencies, but for the demo app, it's usually nice to kind of show stuff off. I also warn people that you should not copy code from the demo app blindly, because the demo app shows off the breadth of what is possible, and in general, your app shouldn't leverage everything. Like, we show off both code behind and MVVM style patterns. You probably want to favor one in your app and not just use both. So there's a little bit of that where it's, hey, you probably want to pick on one of these and not the other. Okay. I am curious because I thought I wanted to see that clear text. Let me grab this here because I think it's escape is supposed to be the key for it. What is the clear text? Okay, I want to look at where this... Well, I want to look at clear... So, clear text. Clear command. Let's take a look. So, auto suggest box, password box. Yeah, so this guy... The problem is in order to get this guy to show up, I would have to set this to true somewhere. Can I do that? Has clear button. There. So if I do this, and I assume the sender is going to drop me into... Okay, it does drop me into the text box version because that's what had the actual thing on it. And then it actually clears all the way out. Okay. I am wondering. So one of the things I am noticing Nope, those do line up. Contrast is not great on the bit. Yeah, the top one up here is not. Yeah, this is bad. I can agree with that. I think it was actually originally developed in light theme, and it's because of the color zone stuff. We probably, you know what, we can just fix that while we're in here. You make a good point. Let's just fix it. Let's just fix it. JC, good morning, good evening. Let's see. Rather than doing this stuff, let's just not. And let's go real quick look at the group box one, because what would I expect to use here? I think it's more akin to this, and that's just the default. So if we go default, it'll probably look better. Let's see what default looks like, because I do wonder if some of those have some hard-coded things set. That's slightly better, but also now I'm realizing why it was set the way it was, because some of these things are changing up. Because the group box header wasn't ever really intended to be used the way that it is here. Okay, so let's change this out. Rather than doing, I think we'll go custom. And I think let's do, where's the, I would like to look at the palette. Nope, not what I wanted, not what I wanted. You're not my friend. Stop it. Okay. I think we probably just want to go with like oh, this is still using the old brush. Yeah, this is using the old one. So let's do something like material design. No. Material design. Stop helping me. Stop helping me. You're not being helpful. Let me go look, because I think I just want to grab like the same stuff that's set at the window level. Just bring it down. It's probably the easiest. Yeah. Brush background, brush foreground. That'll probably give us a much better look. Brush background. And that'll probably go muchos better. There. Now the contrast doesn't look quite as bad. Some of the hinty stuff is kind of bumped up against each other, but I am surprised. Where is it getting? Oh, there's a different font being applied inside of here. That's funny. Okay. Well, let's come down here a little bit. Let's just briefly take a gander. Helper text. Because these guys here are all set to be the same. What if we just bump them up to be bigger? 10's probably too big. Let's try 6. See what that looks like. That looks a little nicer. Now they don't collide with each other quite as much. Yeah, something more like that. Something more like that. And then I wonder if the border brush, dynamic resource, material design, brush, boy, the fact that that thing is not helping me with the autocomplete is not making my life easier. Dear Visual Studio, you know helpy. Where is my... Oh, I'm in the wrong project. That's why I'm not seeing it. I just want my brush names. I kind of work on this library. I should probably know them. That would be too simple. see. Nope, it's themes, and then no, that's not the. It's not the name. Where is the? Oh, it's in the main library under theme. That's right. That's right. Because that's demo. That's WPF. Yeah, clearly this is easy to navigate because I can do it so easily. Base theme colors. Those ones go there, but there's like a light and a dark in here. But what I really want is the... Where the heck is it? Okay. I give up. Help me. Where are the color ones? Colors project underneath themes recommended. Oh. That's what I did wrong. Okay. I can do this. Themes recommended primary. Ah, there we are. Okay, so this is all I wanted was this string. Like that's all I wanted. Was it that much to ask for? Is it really that much to ask for? Let's see, and then let's do border thickness 1. Didn't update? Okay. Don't trust the hot reload. Hot reload sucketh. This is not a good thing. I'm only 45 minutes in, and my Mountain Dew is empty. Oh, wow. Border brush didn't do anything. Interesting. Is border brush not implemented on group box? We'll circle back to that in a minute. Let's get this guy squared away. Okay, so we do there as clear button. That works. Okay, so let's check out the bookmarks. So I wanted to look at that. This we checked, so we'll turn that bookmark off. Okay, so now we're left with the 2 time picker assists. Because I'm not real sure we should be using these. Why can't you navigate? Okay. WPF, you are not making me feel warm and fuzzy. Oh, and this is obsolete. Got it. So this guy really shouldn't be used at all. So this should be going to text box assist instead. So what is the... Wait, huh? What? Let's see. I am trying to debug Velopack and want to log to a file. Would you use Trace Listener or an iLogger? Oh, good question. So, what type of app? So iLogger is an abstraction, and it kind of depends because you can log to an iLogger, but then my next question will be, what logging providers have you plugged in behind iLogger? Okay, iLogger with the generic host. Okay, so I'm guessing are you doing something somewhat similar to like my WPF template? Where it does let's see. Yeah, okay, so you've got something similar to this. So iLogger is probably easiest. You do need to make sure that you plug in. Oh, you've got a repo. Oh, right. I think we looked at this one before. Yeah, I think I've seen this app before. So iLogger providers. There is a lovely page here. That I often reference. So the thing is you can't use the console logger because WPF sucks, and and swallows standard out, which makes it kind of a pain in the neck because occasionally people try to launch WPF from the command line and they expect to see some, console write line messages, and you just don't get anything because that doesn't work. Right. So the key thing will be making sure that you set up an appropriate logging provider to log to. The built-in logging providers, like the event log works, the event source works. Logging to a file is not I think the easiest thing to do is something like Serilog, because there's a handful of these logging providers that come with a lot more stuff. Serilog and Nlog, I think, are probably two of the biggest ones. And in Serilog's case, they refer to it as a sink versus a logging provider. Same thing. It's where do I send my log messages to? But as you can see, Serilog has a few more options. So oftentimes, if you are looking to push stuff out, Serilog will... there will be a sync available to you. So just know you typically install Serilog and then you install one or more of these syncs. Serilog is goated. Yeah. I think Serilog is slowly starting to win out as in terms of popularity. Like I don't remember what their NuGet package download numbers are, but I'm gonna go with ye high. Let's just look because I can't resist now that I said it. So 1.2 billion, not million. That's a B. Billion. Yeah. 1.2 billion downloads. They all can't be dumb. So it is worth noting it because then you have a very simple setup here. In terms of plugging it into your generic host, where is their docs? The one thing to remember about generic hosts is most people will still refer to it as like ASP.NET Core integration or similar because they forget that generic host can live outside of that, which I always find hysterical. Life cycles logger. Where is the Serilog? Let's see. iLogger dependency injection, because it should just be you'll see their references about this will probably work. Yeah, this one. Yeah, so this is web host builder, but you'll note he also does call out the generic host as an option. I just want to know Serilog extensions hosting. This is likely the guy that you want. Yeah, this will be the guy that you install to give you the nice registration method. So that guy there, in this case, he's installing the console sync. You don't want to use console sync with WPF. Anything else is the right option. And you'll see here, this is directly from Serilog's sample of setting up this static property of logger. The reason they recommend doing this is so that, or I should say, why they say to do this immediately upon main, is because if anything goes wrong in your building up of your generic host, Serilog can't run until after it's been initialized. So if you want to catch things that are part of the startup, this is why they have you do this, and then this gets swapped out with the DI instance once that's up and running. They handle that behind the scenes for you. If you don't care about catching things during the startup, like for example, this would not work, right? Because your host builder hasn't been built yet. You don't need this. It's only for catching those early startup things. If you're like, whatever, doesn't really matter. But this here is the key line that needs to be added. And you'll note it gets added on right after your host builder. So in terms of your app, that would end up going probably between 24 and 25 would be where I would slap it in. Just looking to see if you have a better option inside of here. for doing it. I'd probably put it here between 24 and 25. That would be my theory. JC, do let me know how things go with Velopack and what issues you're running into. We are very, very close on our public beta. We've got, I think, literally 3 tickets left on my backlog. I just got to show this because I'm really... Okay. So, before people critique, sign me in. Sign me in. Let me in. Look, it's a pretty, pretty icon. We have a pretty, pretty icon. Let's see. Why is it so confusing to add a login system? That is actually a very fair question. The ironic part is the entire genesis of this was to make adding a login system easier. That's the really funny part with a lot of this. If I jump back to this link here, the login system ones, the whole idea with the generic host was Microsoft realized that there's a lot of things every app needs. It typically wants some sort of DI container. It typically wants logging. Like there's some of these kind of basic fundamental things that you just want in all your apps. And so they went, perfect, we'll plug this in. But then you'll note that there's only a handful of built-in logging providers, and they got so close, right? And they're like, well, we don't want to build logging providers for everything. We'll just leave that to the various logging libraries to let them provide what they already do a good job at. It's like, yes, but you didn't quite put enough in the box to be useful. You got so close, so close. And I will say, even within console, these docs are a little out of date. There are 2 different console providers that are available. One leverages like newer terminal stuff because the old console stuff used to be, ye olde stuff, but now they've got one that supports like ANSI codes and coloring and that kind of stuff, which is like, oh, great, you've gotten mildly better. But yeah, so it shouldn't be hard, but it's not great. Velopack does a log. Is there any way to programmatically make that verbose? That's a good question. Honestly, I don't know. Let's look. If only we had somebody who had access to the repo. Oh, wait, that's me. I will say, too, I did recently update my Uno sample. So it's now even simpler than when I showed it before. It's dirt simple. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look here. So you are coming in here, and you are going through the update manager, and this guy here, I think, is what has the iLogger. This guy. So you are passing in your own iLogger instance, correct? Or are you looking for the built-in logger? Because this default logger here is... oh, your branches fell back. Oh, even better, even better. Hang on, let me grab... Sorry, scrolling up, scrolling up, scrolling up. If we go here, we go here. Okay, and I go here, and I'm going to be looking somewhere in here probably. And you've got this all set up, which is great. You rolled your own main with an async main with the generic host stuff all set up. Great. That's all fine. And then where are you running into, let's see, my branch, any suggestions welcome on the settings page and features. Okay. That's where I was going to ask next. So I'm going to assume the interesting stuff is probably here. Let's see, user settings, theme wrapper, database, from a share. Sorry, I may need context, JC. I missed where from a share, what that's referencing. Let's see, on printer change, dynamo printer change, color, check for update. Okay, cool. So update status, check for update, update manager is null, bail early. Otherwise, we do update manager, check for updates. Problems with updating from a shared drive. Ah, okay, so it's the update source. Got it. Okay, we'll go look at that here in a second. I just want to double check this. So pull down updates. If you don't get an update, early exit. Otherwise, we're going to build up the new version and the update state. Okay, and then the update state is update available, which triggers can download. Let's see. Can execute is can download. Does update state trigger the... Where is it? Oh, it's probably generated. Probably why. Hang on. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. It's because we're using the new source generator stuff, which is great, unless... Okay, there we go. Default update available, update downloaded. Okay, cool. So that just walks through there. It does work, but the download stalled and worked again on next restart. Oh, the download stalled. Interesting. So the one thing I am noticing is you have the configure await true on a lot of these. You probably don't. You probably actually want to go configure await false in most cases. So configure await true tells the async await that everything after your await keyword should attempt to go back to the thread that it came in on. Now, that's not always possible if it's not a UI thread. So a UI thread in WPF is going to have a synchronization context that it can go ahead and marshal back to. But there's nothing in here that really needs to be on the UI thread after this await. So typically, you'll do configure await false in most cases. And in fact, in nearly every case, you do configure await false. There's it stalled when I didn't, so I added it. Did it stall when you had configure await false, or did it just stall when you didn't have configure await? Because the default behavior is configure await true. So without it present, you probably got the same behavior. No call. Yeah. So I might tell you, first of all, I'd switch this to configure await false, because that's potentially one area of it. This guy goes through here. This goes through here. The other thing that you can do, because you're just building these updates and putting them on a shared drive, right? Because you're just practicing your updates from, a local path, which is totally fine, right? Like this release URL can be whatever you want. It can be a local file path. It could be a URL. It just needs to be the place where Velopack can get that JSON file and the relevant other files that go along with the updates. So I tell you to start with configure await false on some of these. And then the other thing that you can actually do is if you're building these builds yourself, you can actually just attach your debugger to it directly. So when the app is running inside of Visual Studio, if you just go, well, I gotta stop my current debug session. But you can do debug attach to process. So what you might do is, once your app is up and running, pop your settings window and then just do attach to process. Because if you built the application locally and you did like VPK pack or similar to make the installer, all of the references are still going to match your source code that you have sitting there locally. So if your source code matches the running application, you should be able to attach and get a halfway decent debugging experience. It'll be even better if you built the installer in debug mode rather than in release mode. So if you did like a .NET publish -c debug, your debugging experience will be even nicer, because that means the IL instructions in your assembly will have all the extra debug statements in there. Whereas release mode, it, optimizes for performance, which is great, but it means your debugging experience suffers because of it. So I might tell you to try that as well, because then rather than futzing with trying to do like logging to files to track this down, you can just straight up attach your debugger and then step through it that way. And that might be a much easier approach to tracking down any issues, because that's oftentimes what I'll do is I'll just attach, because you can debug running applications even if you don't start them from Visual Studio. Izzy, Merry Christmas. I'm late. Too much overtime. Welcome, Izzy. It's always great to have you. I got a little sidetracked on some questions on a WPF app doing updates. But JC, let me know if those two changes don't work. So being switched to configure await false, and then try attaching your debugger to it to see if that sheds any light. If that doesn't work, let me know, and we can see about cloning this and running locally. And like I don't have a K drive, but I'll just switch this file path to be something else, and we can take a look at it and see if that makes any difference. But I mean, overall, this is kind of what a lot of WPF stuff looks like. I personally don't like message boxes because they're kind of ugly, but it works. It works. It absolutely works. And I am actually impressed to see this kind of thing with some of this testing. Oh, I wanted to call something out. So last week, one of the viewers shared this article here. And I put it on my list of things to go and review after the stream, and I did start going through it, and I realized I had seen this before many years ago. Completely had forgotten that. Yeah, no problem, JC. Like I said, let me know if there's still issues, and we can see about troubleshooting and get them working. Because again, especially if there's problems, like we want to find those. But this article, or I guess series of talks, is very, very good. I will summarize. So 3 people, right, involved in these, and so the bottom guy here is the author of like Ruby on Rails. Kent Beck here is the author of Extreme Programming, and then Martin Fowler is known honestly as I would say he's one of the big names when it comes to like .NET refactoring, test-driven development, etc. He's got a long resume. But the whole discussion started because David, oh boy, I'm gonna Hindemeyer Hansen. I'm hoping I got somewhere close. He had posted an article, and bear in mind, this is back in 2014. Like this is ye old stuff. But he had posted a blog post saying, "Hey, TDD is dead," and he had a lot of, I won't say unreasonable critiques of test-driven development. Like he has some very good points. Like I can't disagree with some of the things that he hates. But this entire series is very much worth watching. One, it is I think a decent example of showing how developers can disagree and still have a discussion on a topic, right? Like the one thing that I did note in going through all of this, it is clear that all 3 of these gentlemen care a great deal about producing good software and are willing to listen and converse with each other and go back and forth, even if they don't necessarily see eye to eye in a lot of cases. There's also a lot of really good comments in here about how much testing and what type of testing should you do? And I think one of the things that I heard in a lot of the talks is they all agree that there's kind of this extreme level of testing and test-driven development that some people have bought into that isn't accurate in a lot of cases, right? Of the idea that a test should be isolated to just a single method. I think I talked about this a little bit with like some of my Velopack stuff, but I don't do that. Like, I don't write my unit tests trying to isolate every little class and method and don't let it touch any other part of the system. I don't like that. One of my comments that I've told people before is I think mocks are a necessary evil, because every time you put a mock in, it puts a seam in your code. And like, whether you're doing plumbing or sewing or whatever, anytime you have a seam, it's right at that joint where the bugs creep in and problems come into play. And so people who spend a lot of time putting lots of seams in their code for testing still end up with bugs. And I think this is one of David's big points, is it doesn't always make the code better, right? Like, it can make the code better. And that was a lot of the discussion between these guys, is what is appropriate. And I think one of the best ones was what is the trade-off, right? This cost of testing one down here was really good. And the test-induced design damage I also found to be very good, of trying to figure out, like, there's a plus and a minus to everything, right? There's an old saying that software architects, all you need to be a software architect is memorize the phrase, "it depends." And that's the answer to every question. And there's a little bit of truth in that, because like, some people will tell you that there's a silver bullet of this is the way you build software. You follow these patterns, you do this stuff, and it's all going to be great. And that is a bold-faced lie, right? Everything has pros and cons, and it's important to understand both of those and then make a decision. Because sometimes you look at the pros and cons of something and go, yeah, those don't matter to me, or the cons of that are not a problem for this project that we're on. Great, right? That's perfect. But at least understand those trade-offs and make a good design thing. And I think, like, they don't explicitly say it, but I think that's kind of a general consensus that these three gentlemen kind of came to in a lot of these. Like I said, they don't always agree, and sometimes they just discuss the problems without actually providing a lot of solutions or guidance. But I think that's a key takeaway, is making sure that you understand those pros and cons, understand what the key objectives are, and work towards that, right? Because there are pluses and minuses, right? And the cost of testing one I thought was exceptionally good. So if anybody is interested, highly recommend watching these. I think the first 4 are 30 minutes each, and the last one, he labeled it part 5, but I think the video is actually labeled parts 5 and 6, and they go for an hour instead of a half hour, if I remember right. Something of that nature. Okay, so we were backing up. We were closing this. We were here. Okay, so this thing was using time picker assist, and we don't want to use time picker assist because it's obsolete. The problem is it's also referencing text box assist, which doesn't exist. So that's exciting. I think it's text field assist is probably the one that's expected to be used. It's probably the expectation here. Outline border inactive thickness. Let's see here. Do we have something? Yeah, I think that's right. Simply use border thickness. So I think this guy has a border thickness. He does not. Where the heck is border thickness? This is a great example of how code comments just are meaningless. Because at a certain point, they just don't work anymore. Okay, there's a constant. Where are you referenced? Right. Date picker assist, time picker assist. Huh. So, right. Okay, so we're going to do a couple things. One, if this is only used inside of obsolete classes, we should probably mark it as obsolete. Let me guess. You're only used in obsolete classes. Yeah, so you're going to be obsolete too. Okay, so we're just going to make that real clear what's going on here. And then you aren't referenced anywhere, so we're just going to kill you. We're just going to clean some stuff up while we're in here. Is this relevant to what we were doing? Nope. But are we going to clean it up? Yep. Because I have faith in my testing. Yep, these are all just... Yeah, I'm guessing these got moved, or the usage of these got cleaned up. And all of that attached property stuff, and then it... Okay, so is any of this being referenced? Boy, I have a hard time believing none of this is referenced. Oh, dang it. Dang it, dang it, dang it, dang it, dang it, dang it, dang it. I just realized the find references, no find XAML references. Okay, hold on, we're gonna put this back. Yeah, great question, Izzy. So we are taking a look at... Let me clear this up. So the 5.0 version, or the 5.1 version released, right? Let me see here. Oh, that's what I was going to do tonight. Somebody remind me. Actions fix. I want to fix it. Hold on. This was put in 5.1. Let's see here. These can't be in 5.1 because 5.1 has already released. So we're gonna just put these in 5.2. And the only reason I'm not directly closing the 5.1 milestone is because I want to fix it. Oh, if you use Writer, it does find references in XAML. I know. At some point, I have a couple colleagues that absolutely love Writer. And I need to embrace it a little more, or at least become competent enough with it. I've just spent so much time in Visual Studio that I feel better in it. I used to be a really big ReSharper user. Like, I loved ReSharper. It just got to be so much of a resource pig. And I started to, I kept going back and forth. For a while, I ran one of my machines with ReSharper and one of them without. And I started to find that I was a little faster without it. And so the benefit that it was giving me was not enough to offset the slowness that it added. But Writer, at least from what my colleagues have shown me, is basically ReSharper if like on steroids. Like, the whole IDE is the fancy tool. So, oh yeah, I got an update to next week to up that. Sweet. Yeah, and that's the thing is, in a lot of cases, I think you can abandon VS. There are a handful of times where I have seen Writer slightly lag behind, specifically when Visual Studio is in the process of building out some new feature, like centralized package management, some of the source generator stuff. When those things first launched, JetBrains lagged behind a little bit on getting support for it, but it wasn't bad, and it was really only noticeable because I was running preview versions of Visual Studio, not like the stable versions of Visual Studio. Like, I think Writer easily keeps up and passes the stable versions of Visual Studio, but sometimes lags behind a little bit of the preview versions, because I imagine they don't want to waste time implementing, support for something that then changes out from under them, which totally makes sense, right? None of us like that. So there's just a handful of times with stuff like that I'm like, but like overall, there's some stuff that it does that is really good. And in my opinion, I feel like I need to be good with both. Like this, sometimes people say specialize, but in this case, because I do so much work with pairing with other developers, I think at least from my perspective of what I do a lot is it's important to be fluent enough in the tools that the people I'm helping are using so that I can at least intelligently, go back and forth with them, right? It's a shame that some companies outlaw JetBrains tool because of geography. Yeah. Yeah, like my personal opinion is companies should let developers pick their whatever tool they're going to be fastest in, right? If somebody said they wanted to build C# in Visual Studio Code because that's how they felt that they were fastest, great. If somebody felt like they were fastest in Visual Studio, great. If they liked Writer, great. Like, I don't know if I'd support Notepad or something like that, but if somebody wanted to use, like, I've got several colleagues that like using Vim plugins because, like, they have a Vim background. That's where they feel fanciest. And sometimes they can do some insane keyboard shortcut stuff that doesn't make sense to me. And poof, things come out. But yeah, so there's things like that where I think a lot of times when people ban tools or don't let people use it, it's like you're only handicapping your own developers. Like, eh, eh, eh. Notepad++. Yeah, like Notepad++ used to be my go-to. Like, okay, so people used to love Notepad++ for two big features. I'm trying to see where my Notepad document's going to open. Right? So the two big features that Notepad++ had that everyone loved. One, it started up bloody fast. Like the startup time of Notepad++ was blink of an eye level. Right? So, but then it also had two things, right? First, second. And the two features that Notepad++ had that I saw that everyone loved beyond the ridiculously fast startup time, it had tabs, and more importantly, it auto-saved your stuff. So when you closed it and relaunched, the number of people I saw using Notepad++ as their personal little auto-save scratch pad was insanely high. In fact, I'd be shocked if at least one person on this chat didn't do exactly that, right? Notepad++ as people's little scratchboard note-taking thing, insanely popular. But yeah, now that Windows Notepad added tabs and autosaves your transient stuff, I'm like, they literally did that to compete with Notepad++. I absolutely do that, Mini4G. Yes. See, that is those were the features. I think those three things are what I saw so many people fall in love with Notepad++ for. Ignore the swath of other features that it has because it can do a ton. Those were the big three. Yeah, I do that. I have 19 scratch pads. Yes. Yeah. And that is exactly, like, that feature alone is exactly what so many people loved. But Windows Notepad added in both of those features. Now, they did not add in all the features of Notepad++, but I think they quickly realized that those were the valuable features of Notepad. So Windows Notepad has that built in now for those who care. Oh, and they gave it dark theme so that it didn't look like an app out of Windows 98. But I think they did that several versions back. Yeah, because I think they got it updated to a modern tech stack, and then they went, hey, now that we're on a modern tech stack, doing tabs and autosaving isn't that hard. Let's just do that. So when they added that, I died laughing because I was like, they did that exactly to compete with Notepad++. Okay, I want to hunt these things here. How many of you are used in XAML? You're used in XAML. Okay, so I can't delete all of you. Oh, and I should probably check these, the ones that I just flagged as obsolete. How many are used in XAML? You are used in XAML too. Dang nabbit. Fine. Okay, turn this off. Even with those additions, I still don't think I could ever use default Notepad in any capacity. That is totally fine. Like, Windows Notepad was left abandoned for, I think, decades. It was probably close to that long without getting any updates. Like, and it's not like they can get rid of Notepad because they need to have a built-in text editor. But yeah, Microsoft has long left the door wide open for third parties to build better text editors. I use Notepad to do all my coding. What type of coding, Lethal Air? Because I think there are some places where some languages and frameworks lack what I would say really good IDE support. Snell Chapo, PHP. See, like PHP, I could see that. Though I will say, despite the fact that I'm not using Writer, JetBrains. Oh, just kidding. Okay, I will say, like, there are some languages and frameworks where I think a plain text editor is a very reasonable editor to work with. Right? There's some low-level stuff that I've seen people working in where there's not a great stuff. I heard Writer. I'm here. Yes, Pikachu. Like, especially for people on GitHub Student, the education pack, Writer is a great option. Like, if I remember right, the JetBrains tools are part of that, right? I think so. I think there's some portion of JetBrains stuff that they do. Students learn more, blah blah blah. Join GitHub Education. I just want to look at the yeah, I just want to look at partner offers. Yeah, this is all I want. They changed the website and I don't like it. How am I supposed to see? I see JetBrains right there, but I want to look at, like, I want to, this is an image. I want to click on it. Let's see. Notepad Plus has basically no IntelliSense for PHP. I've since moved to VSC for PHP. I just use Visual Studio. Yeah, and that's the thing. It, like, the JetBrains tools, I think they've done a fairly good job of finding those areas where there's enough developers on a language or framework to warrant actually building out a good IDE experience. And I will say, JetBrains, they build good IDEs. Like, there's a reason even Google punted to them to say, hey, you want to help us build a really nice Android Studio? Like, points on you, Google. Like, that was a wise choice. Like, they would, like, pick the people who are doing a great job and say, let's build this. That was intelligent. Yeah, VS is kicking me out. Yeah, honestly, on a Mac, Writer, I think, is probably the best .NET IDE you can go with. The VS Code stuff is where Microsoft is putting their investments because they didn't like splitting their time between VS for Mac and VS Code, trying to make it work. And so they decided to just go all in on VS Code because VS for Mac was not nearly as popular. But it's worth calling out that the stuff on VS Code is brand new. It, like, I've seen several issues with it. Like, they're investing heavily in it, and I don't doubt it can be good. I don't think it's there yet. Is my opinion. Like, like, VS Code was never meant to be that full IDE experience. It was meant to be like that augmented development experience, which is great because that's what some people want. But it's like, it means that you just killed off your full IDE experience and you don't have a full IDE experience, and Writer gives you that. Let's see. For me, it was more setting the default program in WinSCP for PHP files to Notepad, and it stayed that for a long time. Yeah. Yeah, and Notepad++ being lightweight, like, again, the startup time of that app was insanely fast. I do not doubt that they actually invested time in making sure that their startup was great. Like, you don't get startup like that without putting in some development effort. And I don't doubt that team or developer, I don't know how many people work on it, spent time on that. Yeah. Does VS Code even have a WPF form viewer? No. So if you're talking about like a designer experience, it does not. And I don't know if they're going to spend time building a designer experience. The designer, even in Visual Studio, isn't great. It's always a best guess of what the app might look like at runtime, not what it will look like at runtime. And so I've often given them the feedback that what I would rather see them build out is get that hot reload experience, because web developers have had this for a long time. They edit their code and poof, the browser updates and they see the change, and it's a very fast feedback loop. And that's awesome, right? I want that in my desktop app. Right? I want a fast feedback loop. I want to type some changes, and they have it kind of working for simple changes, but it's very easy to hose it and have to start all over. It's like, like, I get that it's a very different runtime. It's not the same as being in a browser and blah, blah, blah. Like, I get that it's much more difficult, but I still want it. It doesn't make me want it less. It just makes me miss it. Because that is one of the few areas of web development that I think web devs still have on thick client devs, is they have a very fast feedback loop when it comes to making UI changes and seeing those reflected right away. Like, they got a real good setup. Like, and most of the time when people want a designer, what they're really looking for is, I want that fast feedback loop. Yeah, that's what's nice about a WPF form viewer. Yeah, is people want to see that, to see it come back. My biggest issue with the designer, though, is that it's never guaranteed to match what it's really going to look like at runtime, right? Like, the designer can kind of load it up, but especially if you like use a theme library like Material Design and XAML, like, there are things that are going to be applied at runtime that the designer won't know about. And so it's hard for the designer to show those things without actually running your app. And at the point it's running your app, they might as well just do hot reload. Like, we're already there. Don't simulate it, because then I'm going to want to see with my data and all that. So, like, it's one of those, I really want that really nice hot reload experience. And I know it's hard, and I'm willing to sacrifice for it, but I want it. Okay, so we were still trying to figure out where this thing goes, because these comments are both wrong as well. And I want to find the replacement. I see. I think it's worth building your own control set. Yeah, and honestly, I think in a lot of cases, especially like building this material design library, there's a fine balance to be struck in what you actually create. Because when you're building a library like this, you don't want to be overly prescriptive. There was actually an interesting thread that happened in the Discord channel earlier today, where a user dropped in talking about wanting to drop Telerik's library because they were only using it for a handful of things. And they were looking at some of the stuff in the material design library, like the multi-select tree view, going, well, shoot, that's kind of meets the needs of what I was paying Telerik for, and you built a nice one. I'm like, ironically, I built it to get rid of Telerik in a production app because I was unhappy with their rad tree view, which was a major motivator to do that work. And so I think it's nice, but I think there's something that app developers can do that library developers can't, is they can narrow their focus based upon what they're building. Even if it's just like, I'm building a custom control set for my company, you can kind of start to bring things in to say, well, here's my company standards. Here's how this is going to work. Whereas on a library like this, I often try to favor not being too prescriptive and saying, I want to make sure I've enabled people to do those things and not necessarily push too much in one direction. Obviously, like, we try to set all of our defaults to whatever the material design spec is to try to say that's a starting point. But most of the time, people, when they're building apps, a lot of people don't care about matching the material design spec as much as matching what they want their stuff to look like. And so trying to do that, especially when it comes to things like, well, I really wish, like in this case, the tree view, having like F2 to edit. It's like, I was like, yeah, I don't know if we'd ever put something like that into the library. I think I'd want to make sure that it's very easy for you to implement, but I don't know if I want to make that assumption that people want it. Yeah. Yeah, and there is a balance to be struck between what is good in the general cases and what is good in a third party thing, and that's where it kind of goes back and forth of, you know, if there's I often go with, if I get enough requests for something, it indicates that there's a strong enough need, and it doesn't mean we're always going to implement it, but it at least starts communicating, okay, there's enough people out there where this need is not being met. And sometimes it comes down to, well, this need is only really met in a lot of people's paid libraries. And usually I look at it and go, well, the reasons it's in the paid libraries, it's a pain in the butt to implement, or it's going to take so much time to implement. Yeah, maybe not. Right. Like, it's like, I've only got so many hours in a day. Like, we will often tell people who ask for new controls in our library, it's like, well, some controls we're going to implement, but this isn't a controls library. It is a theme library that's out there, so we'll add some controls, but new controls come kind of slowly. Yeah, I mean, as in general, as in something like material design versus needing a lot of unique features. Yeah, no, I agree. That makes a lot of sense. I will say, if you do have feedback on like stuff that's missing in this library, or things that you would like to see changed, feel free to throw those out, because that, like I said, that information kind of helps drive where, like, what type of stuff we end up working on, because right now it's me and two other maintainers that do the lion's share of the work, and so we only have so many hours in a day. But if there is feedback of things that people want, or even if people are like, hey, I'm interested in implementing it, that's great, right? There's been a lot of people who've come in, they're like, I really want this one feature and I'm willing to build it. Great. We are very willing to support you. I mean, as long as the thing lines up with what actually makes sense in the library. But like, that's how some of these things came about. Like this numeric up down control, this started as another user's request and open PR to try to go through and implement it. So, and even if people don't get it all the way there, if they get it far enough along to where it's like, yeah, we can get this across the finish line for you, great. Like, that's awesome. I will take it. Like, we're all kind of working on our free time, and so if people want to help donate, even if it's not getting it all the way there, if you can get it most of the way there, it's probably pretty good. Okay, so I want to look here, and I want to see outline border inactive thickness, because this is the specific one that says border thickness. I want to know where border thickness is, because this is clearly wrong. And the problem with just searching border thickness is border thickness exists in a lot of places. Oh, I know. If it's an attached property, it'll always have a period in front of it. Interesting. This is really not... Yeah, so the work that was done was likely just bringing over the stuff that existed in time picker or date picker. But yeah, because I'm willing to bet. Yeah, this guy here. So that's what was brought over. I mean, that works, but it's not... let's see. Sorry, I'm speaking of one of the maintainers. Nikolai is reminding me that I made a mistake of adding it to the wrong milestone. Yeah, because this was brought over, and I'm willing to bet it was just a copy from the time picker one. I don't like... yeah, so this guy... Okay, so the... simply use... I think I'm going to be specific. time picker border thickness property instead. Hey, what is it? Is it Darko8? I'm probably butchering that. How's it going? Welcome to the stream. We were attempting to figure out what I think past Kevin may have written. I mean, I know the commit message says Michael, but it could have very easily been me. Let's see, date picker assist, and I think this is the same, isn't it? Let's see, date picker. Yeah, so this is use. We're going to be specific. Date picker dot border thickness property instead. So we're going to be a little clear. So that handles this, because I don't think we want to bring this over, because this is a new control. So we don't need to ingest some of the old stuff. Let's see. And I think this is text field assist. And this one was outline border active thickness. Let's see here. Do we have that? Outline border active thickness. Yeah. See, this was my best implementation of a time picker in WPF. See, that doesn't look that bad in my opinion. Right? Of going through and doing it. Yeah, that is not bad. The one, and this is actually one of those areas where I'll show. I don't know if you've seen this, Snell, but there is a time picker inside the material design library, but I've often thought about making. What did I do wrong? Oh, did I deleted a constant, didn't I? Hang on. Where'd that constants field go? What did I do wrong? Oh, that's the demo project. That's that. Which line? See, I knew I'd give me that. Thank you. I've often thought about making multiple templates for it. Like, that's actually been one of the things that I think has been a strength of this library is as long as we can get the control correct, in this case, the time picker, slapping a different control template on there to make it look better, because the picker that we have right now for the time picker is not always what people are looking for, right? So for example, this is the 24-hour clock variant. So if we say, like 2:30, right, we can get something of that nature. But there is kind of a bit of an issue with this in that it doesn't play nice with it doesn't play nice with keyboard input. Yeah, Darko. So this is working on controls for the material design and XAML project. So WPF theming library. If you're interested, this is the repo in question. We are specifically looking at a pull request here that is around adding the numeric up-down controls. So this last column here, we previously already had these other 5 columns of controls implemented, but the numeric up-down picker for doing these different looks is what is brand new and what we're looking at. And in particular, there was a change added here for supporting an old obsolete property, and I don't think we're going to keep that. I don't, because this is brand new, I don't want to bring obsolete stuff forward. I kind of just want to leave it behind. And I was trying to figure out, because this thing was referencing the text box assist and it's text field assist. So we're gonna just adjust the obsolete messages. Please use that instead. Yeah, so let's see. Maybe use 2 different inputs and tab switch box, or 2 digits enter switches box 2. Yeah, and that's the thing is I've wanted to go through and add different control styles to this, because this is a great input for only some things. It's not a great input for everything, right? And like you can click here and here to go between the hour and minute section if you want. But then you compare that to like some of the date picker stuff. It's like, well, it's kind of in line with the date picker. This thing doesn't allow for it, and you can always type, like if you don't want this and you say, well, no, what I want is, I'm bad at 24-hour clocks, so I'm gonna forget to add the 2, right? And I'm gonna do this. Like you can always type in and get yourself there as well, but it would be nice to have some alternate styles. You ever work with native date pickers on a website? Yeah. Recently I've had to fill out a bunch of government paperwork, and I don't like some of the ones that are there. There are some really, really, really bad ones. Safari's is like completely broken. Oh, yeah. Yeah. There used to be a long-standing joke that Internet Explorer was the browser that was, the kid in the corner. And now, once Microsoft realized that the best thing to do was to stop rolling their own and build on Chromium, like Edge actually became a reasonable browser. The difference between it and Chrome got really small, which was great because Chrome works everywhere. And now it's like Safari needs to wake up and do the same thing. Okay, so that fixes those. Let's take a look at the style again, because I think I just want to clean that up. We might just push this change. Might just push this. Okay, numeric up down. All of this worked because I left, oh, that's right, I had bookmarks. Okay, so I think what we want to do here is we don't want to do this border thickness stuff here. I think what we want to do is we want to go up here and just directly do border thickness, and we want to grab the binding, and we just want to, so it's templated parent border thickness. So we can just do template binding border thickness, call it a day. Right? And then this whole thing goes away. And then this text field assist, outline border active thickness, I think we just switch to here, and then we don't have this time picker reference either. So let's see, where is text field assist LMNOP? I can spell, sort of. I'm a developer, which means I can't spell, but that's irrelevant. Let's see. I still don't like Edge. Replace it with Chrome because I am too old to remember back in the day. Yes, I get it. I actually use Edge as my daily driver in a lot of cases. Like I keep a couple other browsers installed because now I'll show you this, but don't laugh at me. Just because sometimes it's fun. Oh, Pikachu. I actually do have Netscape Navigator installed. Did you know you could still install it? It's still a thing. This is basically for the lulz. When I want to give my colleagues crap, I open up their stuff inside of Netscape Navigator. Yeah, Edge and Chrome are meh. Opera and Firefox. Yeah, and actually, I feel like Firefox and Chrome, like over the years, have gone back and forth of being awesome. Like it feels like one of those races where one jumps ahead, then one falls behind. One jumps ahead, one falls behind. Let's see. Text. Oh, no, this is text field assist. Don't. Bad Copilot. You know helpy. If you're gonna type Copilot, you gotta type the correct thing. Yeah, like my company has some internal sites that we use for like managing employees and timesheets and all that kind of jazz. And at one point, I filed a bug saying didn't work in Netscape Navigator. And I think the developers on that team, once they were done laughing at me, wanted to throw things at me. I believe the bug was resolved as won't fix. Let's see. Text block assist. Well, of course it doesn't exist. It's not text block, it's text field. Duh. Do what I mean, not what I typed. Okay? Thank you. Copilot, that is your job. That seems to be someone who knows what he's doing. Headless Firefox is way more undetected than headless Chromium. When you say undetected, do you mean like by various websites for automation purposes? Because I will say that the number of Cloudflare, etc. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Because I will say I have written quite a bit of like playwright tests for, we'll say, automating websites. That's the way that we'll do it. Yeah, so this one here, we are looking at this pull request here, and specifically we are looking at cleaning up the numeric up-down styles so that we get this right one. So the Michael Marriager, probably butchering the name, opened an issue and then did a PR for it as well, which is awesome. And then showing off the work. So we're just cleaning up that PR a little bit, and then I think it's probably going to merge. Yeah, website automation. Yeah. See, website automation is the nice way to say it, Snell. It may be used for other purposes. And in case anybody wonders what that might be, I'm just gonna put a link, and then I'm going to walk away. Right, so I'm just going to take this link and I'm just going to paste it here, and then I'm just going to close this tab. 5 votes for red team. Yeah. Website automation is not lying though. Yeah, especially if it's YouTube. So if anybody has watched any of these streams up on YouTube, hi YouTube. I don't upload them. I'm way too lazy for that crap. I'm way too lazy. And their API was difficult to get approved for what I wanted it to do. And so yeah, so I may have just written some playwright tests, and the playwright tests deal with getting my videos ready for me so that the amount of time I have to spend publishing is, I won't say 0, but it's close to 0. I think I spend about 4 minutes a week. Yeah. Which is an acceptable amount of time for me. Okay, that clears off, I think, yeah, so I see my bookmarks are gone from up here, right? So no bookmarks left, which means I addressed all the things that I saw in it. So this now looks good. Plays nice with the other children. I am noticing the behavior of the control. It changes the cursor position. I don't know if that's bad or good. Let's see, I made a Reddit watcher that tells me to get that video, uploads to TikTok with like 10 different niches accounts. Yeah. It's funny to think that C# is one of the best languages to work with, plus .NET ecosystem, but it's from Microsoft, so yeah, and surely one of those will blow up. Yeah, I will say, like, there is something to be said about Microsoft in the last like 5 years-ish versus the Microsoft that's older than that. Like, they're not perfect, but at least now it feels like they're trying. Have you ever considered changing MDIX to vertical slice? JC, I might need some context there because I'm not sure what vertical slice means. Yeah, people are out of touch with .NET. People don't even know it's cross-platform. Yeah, and that's actually one of the things that Microsoft, I don't think has done a great job of. They have been trying so desperately to get people out of the mindset of old Microsoft and into new Microsoft. But, like, they've got decades of... I think making the wrong choices is a fair way to say it, to overcome. Like, it is... It is hard. Struggling to style this XAML page. At this point, I should change my home address to the Microsoft Learn page. If you've got something that's public, Pikachu, we can take a look at it. I don't know if that's helpful or not. Yeah, the fact that .NET runs cross-platform, runs on a bunch of different runtimes. Like you could run it on your fridge if you want, as long as it's running Tizen. Like there are people who build some really slick stuff that run on like the Raspberry Pis and Arduino stuff. Like it does a ton. Okay, I think this PR is probably pretty good now at this point. So let's see. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. I kind of want to break up some of these changes so that they're a little more separated. Let's see. Fixing here. I'll put myself on the other side so I'm not covering this up. Fixing obsolete message on sys classes. So we'll do that as one commit. Let's see. Do we want the launch settings? I don't think so. I think we're gonna throw those out, but they might be nice. We are going to fix the S on that. We like that change in the demo app because that makes the colors better. And then down here, what did we change? We just did some extra spacing. So yeah, we'll keep that in. And then let's see, updated numeric up down styles to not leverage obsolete properties. Yeah, because we don't want to bring that forward. Okay, so then we're gonna push it, and we're gonna find out if I actually have push permissions to this repo. Yay! Thank you. So for reference, when you open a PR to an open source project, leave the checkbox checked that says let contributors push back to it. It really makes their life easier. Like not all contributors are gonna spend time pushing back to your fork, but the ones that do, it's really, really convenient. Have you tried Visual Studio Blend? Yeah, though I think in this one, Darko, I think Pikachu's stuff is probably .NET MAUI. And Blend, as I'm aware, does not do MAUI. But you are correct. Styling it, Blend, for people who are unfamiliar with it, is a product that came out, I think it was like in 2006, 2008 range. It's been like the first version's fairly old. But it came out as a complement to when WPF was being released, which I believe was end of 05-ish, 2006 range. And it basically gave people a lot more, it gave designers what they wanted, right? The whole idea with the WPF and the XAML was the developers can build all the functionality, and then the designers can use Blend to make it look as pretty as we want it to, and then they all come together and play nice. That was the dream. I think what actually ended up happening is developers with a more design mindset use Blend, and regular designers continued using what they were already used to. I think that's more or less how I saw it play out in most cases, which is fine, but it's not perfect. Oh, that's what we didn't do. We didn't fix the tests. Hang on, this is probably about to break. See, this is why we have tests. This is why we have tests. Okay, because I think that constant change, and specifically we have UI tests around the numeric up-down control, which are useful to have. And if I could spell numeric up-down control, so we're just going to run these because these are UI tests, not unit tests. So if you run the whole suite, it takes like 10 minutes, and we're not gonna spend time running those. Most of these are probably pretty close. Yeah, and some devs just became designers on a per requirement basis. Yes, I can agree with that. I actually went to a couple build sessions like 8 or 9 years ago, and they had some sessions there that were specifically around like UX and UI, because back in like the Windows 7, Windows 8 era, Microsoft actually used to put out some really nice UI guidance of, hey, here's what Windows apps should look like. They kind of stopped doing that, which is kind of disappointing, in favor of some of the stuff. Like instead they put out the not Fluent Design, and those docs kind of replaced it. But and at the time, like I remember the presenter was kind of, talking to the attendees, trying to, like before the presentation, trying to figure out, what people were hoping to hear and that kind of thing, which was great. And I made the comment, I was like, yeah, I'm a developer, but I end up doing a lot of design work, and people, like, that didn't register to them. And I was like, you guys need to understand, like, developers end up doing a decent chunk of design. Like, not all companies are fortunate enough to have a UI UX person on hand with enough available time. Like, some companies don't even have them, and the companies that do have them, usually they're shared amongst a lot of developers, and so sometimes their time is quite limited. Yeah, I used to hate designers. I will say, I have worked with some really good ones. A really good designer is amazing. Like, there's a couple that I work with and one that I'm working with now that are awesome. They are absolutely awesome. I will say, if designers know a little bit of coding or enough to understand coding to at least be able to make that assessment, because sometimes you get those designs from a designer, they're like, well, we could do either of these, whichever one's easier in code. I really love it when the designers know just enough coding to be able to make some of those determinations on their own about kind of understanding how code is structured, what things are hard, what things are easy. Like, those designers are like the magical unicorn. Let's see. This app is held together with shoestrings, hopes, and dreams. We're just trying to cross the finish line. Yeah. Grids and text styling. Yeah, so if you, like I said, Pikachu, if you've got something that's shareable, let me know, and happy to take a look. Okay, so let's see what we broke on these. Failed to find child element. I'm willing to bet, yeah, it's going to be all of these things here. Oh, that's what else we failed to change. I was going to rename that. Because the control got changed. And we dropped the word field from this, which is fine, but I think we want to drop the word field from that as well. It doesn't really make sense to have both. And so that gets fixed. That gets fixed. That gets fixed. And that one didn't fail. So perfect. And now we run these and they all work flawlessly. Unicorns only exist in my son's dreams. I know, but I've met these designers. I know of at least 2 in existence. They are out there. There's just not enough of them, and when you find them, they often just don't have enough time, which is really, like, I get it. Well, they are hard to quantify. They are hard to quantify the value that they provide, because it's really hard to put a number on good UX. It's like you get fewer users calling in. Like, it's hard to measure the absence of things. And sometimes people get lucky where they like have, oh, this is how many, user problems we were getting before we did this UX redesign, and this is how many we were getting after, right? Like, sometimes you're fortunate enough to have those numbers. Most cases, no. Send me their details. I'll build a cloning machine. Yeah, so good eye for design. At least a little bit of coding. They don't need to know a lot, but a little bit. Again, and it gets hard because sometimes the designers who want to learn to code, they don't know what to learn, right? They learn some JavaScript and CSS, and they're usually good at that kind of stuff. But I think the key thing that I like to see in a designer is they know enough coding to understand the differences between what is easy and what is hard in code. Because sometimes that's often where the barrier between the designer and the developer is, of knowing that difference. And sometimes it's as simple as you just have a quick chat and it goes away. But the ones that can tell that difference often then produce designs that are nice to implement. Not necessarily easier to implement, but nice to implement. I'll put it that way. Okay. Let's see. Fixing UI tests. Commit and send it. Okay. Now the other thing that I wanted to fix because it annoyed me. Let's see, and we're gonna enable auto merge, and this one up here needs to have. Let's see, we need this to be labeled as an enhancement, and I want this on the release notes. So we've got a bunch of automation that we're about to look at. And so anything with the release notes label actually gets an entry. So when you see the these lovely release notes, including the contributors and all that stuff, yeah, I didn't do any of that work. Like, I don't write these. This is automation. Yeah, which is awesome to see. Designers 101, make it useful. 2, make it simple. 3, make it pretty. I think, Izzy, most designers have that same list, but in a very different order. Like exactly the opposite. Okay, so what I would love to do, let's see. Do you think window dimensions, horizontal width of the material design test app increases the elapsed test time? Oh, does painting a bigger window take longer? That is an excellent question. So the short answer is I don't know. The long answer is what I do know. So WPF is built on DirectX. And there are a number of steps between your XAML and the UI renderer where it does know the sections of your app that are changed. So if you have a lot of things updating, that definitely slows it down. So I don't know if the size of the window matters, but the number of visible changing elements absolutely does. That I know for certain does. Because if you have a lot of moving parts that are moving around on the screen, and again, if they're visible, right? Like if you've got like a scroll viewer and it's 100 million by 100 million, the stuff that's off screen, the UI tree knows what's visible and it just disregards rendering everything that's not visible because it's a waste of time, right? That just goes away. But if you have a large number of visible elements changing, those do cause UI repaints, and I don't know that it makes it take it longer, but I would be shocked to find that it wasn't. Yeah, wanted to speed up tests and thought that might be a quick win. Yeah, honestly, when I've measured the performance, the slowest part in the tests is on. So in terms of like the XAML test stuff that's going, is starting up the app. So because this test base, when it actually does the so like inside, the test, right? So most of these tests do a test recorder, and this guy here, his purpose in life is just to take screenshots. So if a test fails, it screenshots the failing state and saves that so that you can see, why the test failed. But like this load XAML one, this app initialize with material design and create window, this is the lion's share of the time. Because this actually starts up and like initializes the full running application. And so there's a decent chunk part of this, right? Like, and then this initialize async, this is what actually is starting a remote WPF application. And the process.start takes a decent chunk of time. There's probably some refactoring here that could be done. I've broken this apart by test class, and so I only start up one remote app per test class. So every time I add a new test class, it adds another process start time, which could be like a second or two. It's not huge, but it's not free either. And so there's potentially some remote app sharing things, but some of the tests intentionally start up a different process because they need to change like the app.xaml or something critical to the whole application. So it would be nice. Is there a way in XAML to mark a node to always update in a single run, or update a background pane and swap them with rendered? Great question. No. Ish. So you do not, in WPF, the actual rendering pipeline is abstracted away from you. You don't have direct access to it. And so you are unable to actually get down to kind of that level. That's one of the things when you hear people talk about like WPF render performance, that's usually one of the areas that gets cited. And that's one of the things that got changed with WinUI 2 and WinUI 3 is being able to have some of that level of control. With that said, you can kind of cheat a little bit because we know that, or because we know how the XAML updates. If you want to do kind of like that double buffering thing, like you're talking about like the update background pane and then swap them in with renderer, like there's a nice project element. Where is it? Where is it? It's not it. Yeah. Oh, FFmpeg media element. That's what it is. This is the guy. Yeah. This guy here. So this is actually not a bad example of doing it. So this is a wraparound FFmpeg to build a video player. And it runs in WPF, which is great. Because this is an alternative to the media element in WPF, which admittedly doesn't give you a lot of control. I've done quite a bit of extensive work with this, so I'm somewhat familiar with this guy. But it does do like a render target bitmap, and it builds out effectively that same sort of pipeline that you would expect in a video player, building those frames up behind the scenes, reading in the packets, and then doing that swap as it goes. That way it keeps it running. So, but be aware, building this, you kind of build it from scratch. And you're kind of going to that effort, and you're building the bitmap. You're basically blitting the pixels out that you want, and you're writing the render threads. You're managing all of that, and it's not exactly trivial. Yeah, I have a status page where all of the stats are updated at the same time, but it flashes on some PCs. Yes, so that will often happen if you have a lot of data binding stuff all triggering at once, because typically because if you think about behind the scenes what's happening, you still have a UI thread that's sitting in that loop processing like WinProc messages for doing the paints. When you update your XAML stuff with bindings, that will trigger an invalidation, right? You can call invalidate on your XAML elements, and that effectively sets the dirty bit to say, hey, this thing's been invalidated, please repaint me, yada yada yada, right? But once it goes to repaint, that's where you start to get that flash. So if you have a bunch of bindings that actually all update at the same time, that can certainly cause a non-clean flash. Some of the ways around it can be adjusting the level of where the bindings are at, because updating like the text property of a text block is very simple. Updating a content property or any bindings that might cause layout changes are a big deal, right? So if you're binding and using a data template, that is going to cause a much bigger effect to your render and layout passes than just binding the text property on a text block. Sometimes you can mitigate the flashing as well by making sure you aren't doing double updates. Like if you're setting a binding to empty string and then to the new ones, 50 text bindings. Are they straight to text blocks, or is there anything extra that's happening? And are any of the bindings in like style triggers or similar? Because it is definitely possible. Text blocks. Okay. That's shouldn't be that big of a deal. The other thing that you could look at is where they are set in terms of their containers. Occasionally I need to add a button. Okay. You may look at the containers as well, because if things are updating and they're like, for example, if you've got a bunch of text blocks inside of a stack layout, for example, when you invalidate that, in order to measure it, it has to look at the stack panel to know how much space to give each of those. Even though you may know, hey, I just changed one character, the actual rendered size isn't going to change. It still has to go to that parent to calculate it, because the size of that text block affects everything below it in the stack panel. So there are times like that where if you are able to restrict the amount of size changes, because for WPF, there is the measure pass, the layout pass, and then it paints, right? So if you can make the measure pass quicker, because for example, if you're inside of a canvas is one of the fastest containers because it literally doesn't care about anything, right? It's not positioning things. Everything's absolutely positioned. It's fast. It's also like the most painful thing to use because everything's absolutely positioned. Whereas like grid and stack panel, they all have to like figure out where things go. So if you can cut things off at certain levels by setting like min widths, max widths, or fixed widths or similar to try to get those things closer, sometimes that can also affect your performance because then it doesn't have to measure near as much. It can be isolated to where it is. The other thing that you can sometimes do, and this sounds really weird to a lot of people, is actually delay the updates. So like you can do, rather than updating everything at once, sometimes changing a small number of things actually makes it feel faster than changing everything all at once. So it kind of, it can change a little bit that way. Sorry, one second. Let's see, not today. Though I am being reminded, I did mention last week that tonight was supposed to be doing some AI work, and unfortunately, I didn't say this at the beginning. My colleague was not ready for tonight, so he requested a delay. So I will see if that means next week or not, but it is on the docket. We will be doing AI stuff soon. The idea of building, so for people who are unfamiliar, the goal is actually that that GitHub repo that I linked a minute ago. This actually has a little bit of data in it. If we look in here, this is a folder of markdown documents with hyperlinks about every 2 to 4 seconds or so of every one of my YouTube videos for the last several years. And so there's a lot in here. Now, admittedly, this is using YouTube's speech to text to generate these things, but there is quite a bit in here. And so the goal was to convert this into my own little chat GPT type bot that is using something called RAG to hopefully help answer some questions as though it has all of my knowledge in it, since I've conveniently captured them in a bunch of videos. So we're going to make a little me bot, which sounds like fun. And then I can, you know, like spawn a bunch of instances and make a whole bunch of little me's. It's like being able to clone yourself. Let's see. I was debating a switch to using messages for each status update, which would likely delay each update a bit. The aim is that the source will eventually fire status updates individually as required when I get to update that code. Yeah, the other thing too, Izzy, that I've done on some apps is almost like a message board type pattern where when the update comes in, it updates a field, but there's either a background timer or something that actually goes and just grabs the latest value of it. So rather than posting every single update through the data bound property, it only updates those properties every so often and pulls them back, right? Because sometimes if you're firing those things so fast, it doesn't always end up mattering because you may send 3 updates, but at the end of the day, that render loop is only going to get to them so quickly, right? So it's like sometimes you can get away with that depending on the situation of what it is. Like you can think of building a clock application where you really only need to update about every half a second to have it feel fairly consistent, showing a seconds hand counter all the way around. KetoBot, what is Kaboo's favorite color? Oh, that's a good question. I wonder if that's in here. Save that, Pikachu. We'll use that as a test for the bot. We'll see how accurate it actually is. Uh, oh, annoyingly, I can't pull it. It has to be a push due to diode networking. Okay, that might be a specifics around your particular domain. Okay, so the thing I wanted to show off, it's fuchsia. See, that's how we'll know, Izzy, if it gets it right or not. That's how we'll know. I will say, it is, if we're talking about what is my visual to-do color, 100% is fuchsia, followed shortly by, depending on, you know, which UI framework, lime, or the RGB code where it's just 0FF00, right? Like, that's the one. Okay, so GitHub Actions, right? As you can see, the material design one, and I'm going to go to the other side, has a bunch of different actions or workflows, as they call them. And we've got ones that are like kind of interesting, right? We've got this nightly release one that every night you can see it just bing, 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 minus coffee. Oh, I love it, Pikachu. I love it. So this thing just fires off and runs, and you can see some of these are really quick because this pipeline checks to see if there's changes, and if there's not, it just stops. And you can see there are no changes takes, you know, somewhere between 14 and 30 seconds, give or take. And when there are updates, it takes like 13 minutes to actually run. But it then goes and actually produces preview NuGet packages, pushes them out, and everything's happy, right? And we've got the standard, like, the main PR pipelines and the build pipelines that run when things merge and all that stuff. So that's great, right? All that's fine. Here's what bothers me. I have this production release workflow, and it is a lovely production release workflow. Aside from one teeny weensy little thing, the fact that these are all red X's. Now, despite them being all red X's, this thing mostly works. So if we take a look at it, it does a little bit, right? So yeah, so it's got some steps. It does some work. There's some things here, right? So it looks up what the appropriate version numbers are, because bear in mind, this is a pipeline that gets automatically kicked off. If I run it, the first thing it asks me to do is type in a milestone that I want to publish. So when I'm putting PRs and issues into a milestone, that's why that's important, because that milestone I'm going to type in here, and it's going to use that for a bunch of stuff, right? So if we go and look, it's gonna figure out appropriate version numbers for me. It's gonna generate my release notes because I'm way too lazy for that stuff, right? It's gonna do the build and test step because, you know, we should actually probably, you know, compile the thing we're gonna release, maybe, right? It's going to verify that the version numbers that it calculated actually match the milestone, because if they don't, I have it stop me. So just by convention, I like to have my milestone names match the version that's going out, right? So the last milestone was 5.1.0. That's the version that got published. If those things don't match, you know, the pipeline stops you and whacks you upside the head and says, you moron, go fix it. It calculates the icon changes. I don't know if anybody actually cares. It only ever comes up every so often. But you'll note, I've got this pack icon changes. I have a list of every icon change, and that didn't go to the right place, so it may not be working great. Of every, why are these all opening in edit mode? $5X icon changes. I might have to go look at why this is opening in edit mode and not looking, but do some of these launch? Okay, at least some of these launch. But we generate a list of every icon change that has occurred at each version, because for semantic versioning, normally a change in the icons enum would be considered a breaking API change and require a major version rev. I am not going to rev my major version every single time just because we have an icons change. So as my compromise, I said, I am ignoring icon changes for the purposes of semantic versioning. And instead, what I will do is I will produce a list of all of the changes, including the number of removed icons. I can tell you which icons have visual changes because I know what the the path data was on the old version through the new one, because sometimes the icon visually changes and I don't have any control over that because we're just ingesting icons from materialdesignicons.com. Wait, like there's no, I'm not building these. These are just being pulled in. So, but it also shows you the new ones and occasionally the old ones. And occasionally people will go, well, hey, where did my icon go? It's like, I'm sorry, they removed it. Like at one release, they dropped all icons that were for branded ones and they moved those out. And people were like, can you put those back? I'm like, not really. Like I could grab the old ones, but now I'm trying to do this weird maintaining thing. It's like, it's just not worth it. So there are other icon libraries. This is just a reasonable set that we pull in. And these things merge in. There's also, because I'm also lazy, right? There is a icon update one that runs daily and goes off and downloads all of the icon updates. And if it finds icon updates, it opens up a PR and there's an automatic merge process that as long as the pipeline passes, the icons just auto merge. So I haven't thought about updating icons in like 2 years. It's been glorious. I absolutely love it. The auto updating, the magic new icons show up and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I didn't even know I had that icon. Finally, it comes in here and creates a draft release and then it pauses. So all of these steps up here, these are all done in one environment and this is in a different environment. So when I talk environment, this is GitHub Actions environment. And this environment over here on the right is production, and production requires an approval. And so I have to manually go and click the approve button to let it go from here. But at this point, it's created a draft release for me out in GitHub. So I will go over here, I will open up the releases, and most people can't see draft releases. But I can, and I can come in and I can review the changes. I can make any updates that I want to this to make sure it's ready to go. If I want to check out any of the built artifacts, I can pull in the built artifacts and verify those are good. Like any amount of testing that I want to do, and then I click the go button. It's supposed to update the wiki with the icon changes. Clearly that's not working properly, so we're going to look at that. It pushes the NuGets out to NuGet.org. That did work correctly. Huzzah. It takes the draft release and publishes it to a real release. That worked. Huzzah. It's supposed to then close the milestone. That did not work. Bad. And then it's supposed to update the version numbers in the repo. That also did not work. Also bad. So I'd like to fix that. That would be convenient. So we're going to see about getting these things going. And I'm actually surprised that this thing didn't work, because it showed that it pushed a file. So I'm actually curious what it pushed. So let's start with this. Let's just figure out what this thing did wrong. Next version 5.0. Yes, there is room for automation to fail. Let's see. If I go here, and I think I'm going to bring this over here because I don't know what it's going to show when I click this. Yeah, so that's not going to work. Let me go back here. Okay. We're going to go here, and I think what we're going to do is we are going to just open a repo, and I don't want to do that. I want to open this. And I believe I have the material design wiki already here. So select open. Okay. That's interesting. So the top two failed, but this one should have worked. So let's check that. It's clear that I didn't push all the files, so this should fail. Yeah, this should work. Let's see. What time are you staying up till? Isn't it like 1 a.m. there? Izzy, it's only 10 to midnight. It's still Wednesday. I haven't even gotten to Thursday yet. Though, let's. I'll answer the question this way. I got about 3 ounces more in me. give or take. Okay, so it didn't push the change I expected with the new file, so that's not great. So I might need to rerun these and regen these, which is fine. Like I can regen these. It just pulls down the NuGet package and does a diff between them, so I can always rebuild these at any point I need, which is good. One file changed, 2 insertions. Oh, these 2 lines. So blank line. Okay. So that didn't go great. This one also failed, but I apparently didn't catch it last time, so that's not great. This one did change. So something did not build and capture the file correctly. See, Izzy, go have fun with your son. I promise we'll do something fun next week. Okay, so we're gonna bring that guy forward. Let's see here. So this guy here has, it's, yeah, so when it generated this, create icon diff file, it built this out, upload icon changes. So the question is did it upload the icon changes appropriately? Let's see here. Icon changes. Let's just download this guy and see if he actually has both files in him or just one. So this guy here, he did the work, right? So this is the command I can just run to do these. But this did not actually generate the appropriate file. So that wrong. Okay. So let's just check this guy here. I guess let's just go run this resource generation one. We've done enough changes around this that this is not overly shocking. Let's see. This is under tools, resource gen. And if we make you my startup project, and then we, let's see, gen swatches, diff icons. So that's there. So we want that. And what is the diff icons doing? That is not an appropriate amount of information. Oh, where does it get its versions from? Because it's doing an icon diff. Huh. I don't know where it's getting its versions from. Let's take a look. Let's see. NuGet stir, enumerate files. So it's ripping through NuGet packages. But hold on. Hang on, where did it get the NuGet packages from? Oh, download NuGet artifacts. So it expects to be able to download these guys. Oh. Look at that. Look at that. Wait. Redirecting to... Wait. So this... Oh, I see. This downloads the existing NuGet artifacts. Okay. Get previous NuGet release. This reaches out to NuGet to pull it down. Okay, so this is pulling down the previous release's NuGet package, and this is pulling down the one from the pipeline. Okay, so we can do this. If we go back here, nope, here. If I scroll down, so I need my current NuGet release. So I will download that guy. And then I will open you. And I'm going to move you here. I'm going to copy over that. Sorry, I'm just going to redirect my folders. Okay, so this guy here expects a... I should make this easier for me to run locally. Let's see, because it wants the repo root and then it wants a NuGets folder. So I just need to put this in a NuGets folder. So you go there. There's the 5.1 stuff, and then we want the 5.0 NuGet package. I wonder why I pulled these from GitHub rather than... I'm not entirely sure why I pulled these from GitHub rather than pulling them from NuGet. I wonder if there was a reason. Sometimes past Kevin does things that current Kevin doesn't understand, which isn't always a good thing. Okay, so we're going to just grab that sucker, and I'm going to take him, and I'm going to put him into the NuGets folder. Okay, so now he should be set to run. We're just going to make sure, run diff icons, and I want to see why you did not write out the files I expected. Probably something stupid. Okay. Old NuGet is 5.0, new NuGet is 5.1. Great. Okay, so it's going to do the comparison. Great. And it's generated a bunch of output for me. For those people who care to see it, it literally just generated the markdown for me. For those people who care, this is the difference in icons between 5.0 and 5.1. Huzzah. We have icons. Okay, so this is going to write this. So this is going to go and create an icon changes at the repo root. We go here and go back. Icon changes, and okay. That looks like what I would expect. Okay. It wrote the file, and then it finished. Boy, that looks creepily like worked flawlessly. Okay, so then what? Huh? I prefer when things fail if they actually, like, show me why they... Huh? Oh, what did you fail on? Boy, I got so many failures. Split button. That I'm starting to worry we've got some flaky tests. But coming back to the non-flaky test things, production release. So hang on, this thing, get icon changes, create icon diff file, upload icon changes. One file to be uploaded. So what? Because the icon changes.zip, we validated what was in it. Right? And it's this. Oh, it actually, okay, so hold on. It actually had the right files in it. Okay, so that actually worked. Okay, so then why? So download icon changes, great. Okay. So this thing downloaded the artifact. Doesn't show exactly where it put it, but it does show that it has icon changes there. Oh, this PowerShell may be to blame. Okay. We need to look at this PowerShell. That is more likely the problem. So if we go here, 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 why is production release not even in my set? Okay, something's making me unhappy. Let's see, reset local. Thank you. And then apparently I have not added production release to my. Or have I? It's just called release. The fact that the YAML file doesn't match the name. Okay, so let's come down here. Build icon changes, update wiki. Okay, so this lovely bit of PowerShell may be my problematic child. Okay, updating from. So let's confirm what we actually saw here. So we saw updating from, and it pulled out the right file, so that makes sense. So we know we got inside the for each, we know we got in here. Now, if this if statement wasn't true, we would have gotten a warning output. So we can conclude we got inside this. Previous and target version. This thing goes through and is updating the, let's see, major version, split. That should be fine. New item, changes file. I'm wondering if it's going to be this if thing, because it was working in the 401, and I'm wondering if the switch to 5 is the problem, which is what's making me immediately suspect of this. Because we did have a major version change, and then it no worky. This thing also seems to think that it is in the, like it is checking out the wiki repo. So it should be within that context. And then it did grab the release notes here. So I think let's do this. Because this is executed in the context of the wiki repository after downloading the icon artifacts into icon changes. So if I take this icons changes file and I go to my wiki and I open it and I come over here and I create a folder called icon changes. I paste that here, right? I think that gets me fairly close to where I was. Let's see. Yes, because it downloaded it to here. Yeah, that tracks. And we checked out the wiki repository. Yeah, so deleting contents, blah, 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 doing all of that stuff. So even though the name doesn't have wiki on it, that is where it is. This guy goes into here, and then we can run this wiki and see what's going on. So let's do VS Code, the PowerShell editor of choice. And actually, let's go here, and because I want open repo in VS Code. So I want that to show up. Okay, so we've got a bunch of stuff here. Great. Test.ps1. Great. There's my script. And then I'm going to go back over to Visual Studio, and I'm just going to grab this whole sucker. I'm going to paste him in here. Huh. I don't know how it knew to trim the white space off the beginning. That's very nice, and I don't have any idea how it did that. Okay, so if I just blindly fire this guy off. That's interesting, because it appears to have done the exact correct thing. That's interesting. That's very, very interesting. It appears to have worked flawless. Oh. I bet you I'm an idiot. I bet you I'm an idiot. I'm willing to bet. Oh, that's a variable. So let's clear that out for 5.1.0. Yep. When you see it. When you see it. I'm a moron. So the short version is I created a the number of times I've said that to myself this week. And don't worry, Pikachu, it doesn't go away as you get further along in your career. You just get to say it for different things. The git commit command here that is running isn't picking up new file. It's only picking up modifications. Because you'll note here, after doing this lovely commit, this guy here doesn't show. Dang it! My automation for generating the file worked flawlessly. My ability to commit the file did not. Okay, so what is the commit? Commit. Yeah, so commit all. I made the mistake of thinking that it meant commit all changed files. No, not added files, changed files. I think there's a way, because I don't want to blindly, do I? Because it moves the file, so I actually think I'm fine picking up everything. Do I want to pick up everything? Or should I just add it? The hard part is I don't know if I want to add it here, because I don't think I do, because this script isn't doing any of the git interaction. That's being handled outside of the script. Yeah. Let's see. What is the magical command here? Okay. Copilot, you're up. Do the thing. Open chat window. Whoop. And you can dock there. Thank you. And we're going to just new thing. New chat. Oh, you already are in new chat mode. Okay, great. Update this git command to also include new files. There. I could think, or I could make the AI write it. Oh, is it really? Let's back this sucker off. If I revert back mixed, that should put me back in the same state. Yeah, and so to go all the way back, I put you back in the icon changes, right? Move. Nice, Pikachu. That's awesome. Congrats. And then I'm going to back this out. We're back in a clean state. I'm gonna run the script. Oh, did it not? Oh, it's because the file's named wrong. File is named wrong. We're gonna just delete this and repaste the file in. Okay, so clean state again. There it parsed. There it created. And then if we do git add period, and then we do the git commit. Oh, that's the help one. We do that one. 3 files changed, and in this case, it's saying 3 files changed because it's picking up the PS1 script, but now it picks this up. So the fix for this is to come over here, Solution Explorer, and then on this, we want to do a git add dot to pick up the change and do this. That is the fix for that. Now, fixing this wiki in the meantime means I need to gen this file one more time. And I need to go grab the 4.9 release NuGet package. So in order to do that, because I need to gen the 4.9 to 5.0 stuff as well. Nope, I want to see all my releases, please. And I would like to go back and I would like to grab 4.9 assets, that guy. Gimme. And I'm going to cut that and move it over to here. And inside of here, I'm going to paste you in, and I'm going to get rid of this. And then I'm going to just blindly rerun my command. And it will gen me a new file. Yeah, do your thing. Do your thing. Give me the file that I wish to have. Then we're just going to go put this into the right spot. Icon changes here, cut into my icon changes here, paste back into here, run the script. Ooh, didn't persist. So typically that'll come from, oh, this put them in the wrong bloody order. I'll just reorder them. Because it's always prefixing these suckers. We'll just put it at the beginning. Boom. There. There. Happy. Happy, 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 happy. Okay, let's see. We'll do this, do this, do this. And then we're going to come in here and we're going to stage, amend, amend, and then we don't want this, but this now has the appropriate stuff. Oh, the pack icon release notes is wrong. I want to do these in this order. That it looks like that. There, that's better. And then we go view changes, stage all, fathead to the other side, amend, amend commit. And then we want to drop this test PS1 out of our commit. So I personally like doing this. I generate a revert commit. I unstage everything I want to keep. I amend with the thing I don't want to keep. And then I throw away this. And now I've got a commit without my script in it. So, bippity-boppity-booyah. Let's see, let's fix this in fixing missing pack icon wiki changes. Clearly, not a lot of people look at them because no one reported this since the 5.0 release. So, that's how valuable these are to people. Either that or people just don't know they're there. Probably a combination of both. Okay, now we go to the wiki and we go to pack icon changes. We can go boop. Yay! Shows the 4.9 to 5.0. Shows the 5.0 to 5.1. There we go. There we go. Icon changes abound. Yeah, like for example, when we went to 5.0, these ones were deleted. Now, I suspect, given these ones here, they were probably collapsed into these other ones, but that's hard for me to say because without visually inspecting the icons before and after, it's real difficult to tell. It's real difficult. Okay, so that fixes that. Okay, that passed after a rerun, which concerns me, but okay, fine. Okay, next thing we want to fix. I would like to fix the close milestone and update version number stuff to have this thing work. Let's start with close milestone. And we are going to actually run this sucker to make sure that it gets all the way through, which is why I haven't closed the milestone manually yet, because I want my script to do it. Okay, so we tried to do this. So this is using a GitHub extension to do it. I kind of wonder if I need to use an extension anymore, or if we can get away with this without it. Hang on one second. Let me get a fresh terminal. And let's okay. There. Let's take a quick gander about this. I think you can do. Does this have a self-updater built in? I just want to make sure I'm running latest. Is this I think this is a WinGet update. Yeah, WinGet update. That's the guy. Just want to make sure I'm on latest here real quick, because before so this GitHub CLI is a somewhat new thingy. Put my big head over here. And so it's been slowly getting more and more functionality added to it, but I think at this point it's pretty close to, like, I think they caught up to everything that existed, and then it was just a matter of getting what didn't exist. But if you launch your terminal into a GitHub repository, you then don't have to specify the extra arguments to tell it about which account, which repo, whatever, because it just defaults to, if your current directory is the root of a GitHub repo, it just uses that, which is kind of convenient. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so we are interested in knowing if we can go through and close a milestone. And I vaguely recall running into the problem where it wasn't available via the CLI, which is why we went with the extension. Let's see. Where are milestones? Let's try repo. Are they in there? Archive, clone, delete, fork, rename, set default. No, that doesn't seem right. Let's try project. Is there release in there? Let's see, item, file, list. That's not it. I would kind of expect it around releases. Okay. Create list. Maybe around issues. And it could be that there's just not support for this yet still. But I want to at least give it a good shake before I just say no. Let's see. Manage linked branches for an issue. Interesting, they called it develop. Transfer, unlock, pin, view. Boy, Okay, let's just real quick here. If I search the word milestone, what do you come back with? Let's see. Add search PRs. Cannot set a closed milestone. GitHub PR create milestone. Interesting. So, but this is working with my, like, I want to actually control the milestones. Where do you have the milestone stuff? Because this is an extension, so I'm intentionally ignoring this one for the moment, but well, maybe we go that route. And let's take a quick look at this guy here, which I believe you can just go github.com/ and then usually land right on the guy you want. Look at that. Okay. Yep, this was why we went with this way, because it made it easy. It made it easy. So it installs the milestone, pulls the milestone back. Let's see. So I'm curious which of these ended up failing. This probably doesn't make sense, but this is possible. Let's run this command and see what happens. Okay, so that pulled that back. So if we do the full thing to assign it in, right? So we'll set the variable, great. And then we'll do milestone number. And then we will do, because I think this is the number we're after. So echo milestone number. We got 45, great. That's kind of what we expected. GitHub milestone edit, milestone state closed. Did it just work? That would be kind of disappointing. Oh, it did. Hang on. Reopen. Okay. So the command works just fine. The issue is the access token that it has been given, because this is using the GH access token. So let's take a look at where that comes from. Okay, so we want, let's update version numbers, close milestone. So this guy here is just using the built-in access token. Let's see, doing an issue. This was closed a while back. Let's see, this is in version 2.1. Is this released? Yes, how do you see the version? If I do GH milestone help, can I get the version of this? Look at that. This is 2.0. So 2.1 is not what I have, but if I run this, do I get an update? Upgrade. Boom. Okay, so I did upgrade there. And I think what we're going to do is we're also going to change a little switch here to do right host. No. Using version. No. You are still wrong. And then we're going to do something of this nature. GH milestone dash version. Right? Because I think that's what we just ran here. Yeah. So if we, just to confirm this line, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to actually spin ourselves using version extension version there. Okay. So we're going to do that just so that we have that information. So this clearly works, and we don't need to do this checkout anymore. I think we don't need to do the checkout as long as we specify, well, let's leave that there for now. One thing at a time. Okay, so I would like to create a new workflow file that closes the milestone. So we're just going to do this. All right, and we're going to come over here and let's just duplicate. Maybe we do this in VS Code. Let's go here, file, open in VS Code. And then we're going to go expand out GitHub, workflows, and then maybe like our icon update one is an easy one. Copy paste, test. That sounds great. Okay, so we're going to come in here and we are going to paste all of this in. That is not what I wanted. Nope. I wanted here. I wanted copy. I wanted here. I wanted paste. Okay. We don't need a needs. We don't need to run in production. We're just going to try to rock and roll this guy. Workflow dispatch. And then I think what we're going to do is we are going to do, because this was inputs milestone. I think we're just going to replace inputs milestone with 5.1.1.0. We're going to save ourselves some trouble because we're just testing this. So this is all around this access token, I think. And let's go back and confirm real quick because I think that's what it said it would use. Oh, look at that. GitHub token. That is GH token. Bet you that makes a difference. Bet you that makes a big difference. Reading documentation for the win. Okay, so well, let's test this first to make sure this works. So we're just gonna send this, and we are just going to see test closing milestone. See, let's just confirm that this guy here, he is workflow dispatch. He has this, he has this, he has this. Commit. We are just going to send this straight into master. Token like the thing I needed to set up Get Kraken. Yeah, to some degree, depending on how you authenticated. So in this case, when you see Pat, what this stands for is not Patrick, but personal access token. So inside of GitHub, right, if you go here, and I'm just going to drag this to the side real quick because I don't know what I'm about to show. So we're just going to pause for a minute while I validate. And then yeah, so it's going to be something like this. So underneath your settings, there on the left side at the very bottom, there's developer settings, which I always found funny because developer settings, like how many people use GitHub who aren't? I know there's some like data scientist people, but whatever. Right? So you can generate a personal access token or PAT for the GitHub API. There is this fine-grained access token, which is very similar, where you get to define exactly which permissions that it gets. When you're running a GitHub action, there is an access token that gets automatically generated for you that the GitHub action runner can use. The problem is that access token that's automatically generated for you, by definition, only has read access to your repository, which is a good thing because if you think about what could go wrong with like pull requests, in an open source repository, if that access token had full permission to do things like delete the repository, change somebody's access to the repository, that would be bad and scary because then somebody could open a pull request and the little pull request runner could go and do bad things. That would not be good. So the workaround for this is we don't have any actions that trigger based upon outside contributor action or outside people's actions with an elevated access token. So like, for example, this one that closes milestones, it only runs in the production environment. And the only way something runs in the production environment is if somebody clicks the approve button manually. And there's only 3 of us. So it can only go wrong so many ways. Somebody would have to sneak in a change to a YAML file without us reviewing it, and then somebody to run a pipeline build and click approve without catching it. I accept those risks. Okay, so we're going to go actions here, and now I should have... Oh, shoot, I just realized something. I didn't change the name of it. I don't know which one of these icon updates it is. This one. Let's run this. I'm hoping that this works. The reason that they both show up as icon update is because when I created this test.yaml, I left the name as icon update. It should really be test. That way it makes a little more sense. Okay, so this guy ran, closed milestone, and then hopefully issues, milestone closed. Okay, so the issue is that guy, and we are going to just reopen this guy. Hang on, go back to milestones, go to closed, reopen. Okay, so the last thing I want to test on this guy here to make sure that we can set it properly is I don't want to set this up here. I believe you can set environment down at a lower scope. Specifically down here, we can double check that assumption here in just a moment, but I believe... Is that off by 1? Yeah, it is off by 1. YAML is everybody's favorite as it's white space sensitive and you have to get it exactly correct. But I believe this also works. So we're going to confirm this as well. Test, amend. No, we won't amend the commit. Testing, moving, env. I could go look at the docs for what the context supports where, or I could just push this and run it and confirm it. So I kind of like just going. Right, so these are open actions. We should now have test. Huzzah. It's cool that it remembers that it's the same file, just a different name. Okay, so if I run this now, it should kick off and we should see it close and everything should be happy. So that would be nice if that were as simple as the change was. Okay, it went green. Let's just check the results. Milestone closed. Okay, so what we are going to do then is we are going to copy these changes back into our main release one. Boom. And we're going to just do that. And that will make all of that happy. Okay, that problem is now fixed. Next one that's not fixed is, okay, and both of you can cancel. We don't need to be wasting build minutes. Okay. On the production release, the last step that failed, because I'm doing these as separate pipelines because I like the number of times I run this thing full end to end is not high enough. Okay, so this is pushing changes. So this guy here should have had, because the token that is in that secret, so what maybe is not obvious is if we look at secrets and variables actions, there's that access token, right? So there is a service account access token to be able to do all of this stuff. So we have generated one that gets stored. Interesting. Just got an email from Azure saying, sorry to see you go. Don't worry, Azure. I didn't go anywhere. Let's see. I feel like the answer is here, but I'm not quite getting it. Take a look. Maui interface theming. Come on, Microsoft. Load. You can do it. You can do it. I believe in you. Come on. do not understand why these learn links are giving me such problems. There we go. Boy. Maybe I should go back to Netscape Navigator. It's coming all the way from Australia. Let's see. Okay, so load a theme at runtime. Remove the current theme from the app. Property. Load the selected theme. This is achieved by adding an instance of the selected theme to the merge dictionary property of your top level resource dictionary. Yes. Okay. So the idea here is inside of your Maui application, you have an app.xaml. Your app.xaml contains a collection of merged resource dictionaries. And in this case, very similar to how the material design library works, where I created typed resource dictionaries. I will admit I may have poached a little of my structure from Maui, because not everything they do is bad. Some of the stuff is decent. So what this is doing is it is grabbing that collection of merged dictionaries, dumping it. So this is the type of code that you might write if you were trying to go from light to dark theme, right? Or I guess in theory, if you were trying to automatically like set the dark theme in code at runtime, right? You've persisted a user settings that says, hey, I want to be dark theme, and you want to do this. The one bit about this code that is absolute trash, in my opinion, is this line right here. Because this throws away every single merged in resource dictionary you have at the app level. If all you have at the app level is theming, this is fine. The moment you do anything else, this code doesn't work because it's blindly clearing everything, which is wrong. In general, what you would probably want to do is loop over this merged dictionaries collection and be somewhat intelligent about which ones you remove and which ones you drop. Right? So if you've got a resource dictionary called, say, light theme, you might loop over all of the merged dictionaries and go, oh, okay, maybe we only remove the light and dark theme dictionaries from the collection and not just blindly dump everything. Let's see, does it go here? Oh, I might have to grab this. Let's see. Let's see here. Application, current, user app theme. So this is fine here in that this is setting app theme light, app theme dark. This is a slightly different property. Let me check this here. Is this in here? Sorry, I don't remember these APIs off the back of my head. User app theme. Gets the currently requested theme by the system for your application. Oh, so what is going to probably break you here? This is a read-only property. So think of this property as telling you what theme the device is currently in, not necessarily what theme you want it to go into, right? So like on Android, you can pick whether you want your device in light or dark theme. This is going to return back either light or dark, or unspecified is likely a value reserved for, we just don't know. We give it up, but it's working. If you have an assignment, the fact that, here, where's this? The fact that this shows an assignment operator here, I'm skeptical at it working. Just doesn't sync between runs. The reason I'm skeptical that it's working is because this thing here shows that the property should be read-only. If there's a setter, I imagine it's probably not doing anything. If you want to actually persist this between runs, you're probably going to end up having to persist the user's selection between light and dark, and then do something dynamic. I'm actually surprised that this works. because that would mean that this swaps the... Is there... I am somewhat surprised that that works. Look here. Respond to system theme changes. Yeah, so because this is... Oh, set the current user theme. Oh, look at that. So you can set it this way. Oh, this is interesting. It just doesn't sync between runs. Yeah. So that the fact that it doesn't sync between runs sort of makes sense. This is going to be setting something that, or how should I phrase this? Typically, if you want something to sync between runs, you're going to end up needing to actually save some data and reload that properly. Hey, Alex. We're on a side tangent at the moment about doing some theming in .NET MAUI, but there's a little bit of GitHub Actions work that we were going to jump back to after the side tangent. There should be a... Where is the... This is user... hang on. Where is the configuration stuff? That... Oh, .NET. Forgot a very important line in that query. Let's see. Where is the persist data? I thought there was an implementation for configuration, but maybe was it .NET MAUI Community Toolkit? Is that where I saw it? So for reference, if you don't have this Community Toolkit package, boy, I do not know what it is up with some of these links. Some of the something is weird. Let's see, essentials. Like, why are some of these Microsoft Learn links make me click multiple times? It's just the Microsoft pages. Extensibility, blah blah blah. Let's see, where are you? Because the dead simple way to do it is just like write your own config file. So .NET MAUI has a file system API that is it's an abstraction, because the file system that you access on like Android is different than Windows, which is different than iOS. So they do have this guy here. And specifically, if you wanted to be able to like write off what theme that you wanted to save and sync it between runs, you can write files off into like your cache directory, right? You can open up a stream writer and just blindly write a file that contains, you know, user theme preference. And then when your app starts up, read in said file and set the theme. I thought there was a better configuration API that handled some of this for you, but I could just be wrong. So this is the simple way of doing it and just going bare bones, very simple. If you want structured data, you could use something like systemtext.json to write out a JSON file with the config in it and serialize, deserialize that way. But like I said, or the dead simple way is just stream writer and just write a file, make it a text file, put a 1 for dark, 0 for light, or something. Like you can make it that level of simple. Because I'm not seeing a configuration thing in here. Configuration management. Yeah, and that's the thing, is it is just stored a bool. Like I said, write a 1 or 0 into the file and then read it back and forth. Oh dear heavens. This is what it is. Preferences. That's the API. See, I knew I remembered seeing something. Yeah, this is the API. There. That way you don't have to think about where it gets stored. Yeah, this is what I was remembering. Is there's a very simple API when you just want to store like user preferences, right? You give it a name, you give it a value, you can store bools. And typically what you would do is you declare a string constant for whatever your thing is going to be, like I don't know, user theme or something to that effect, rather than has pets, and you just make sure that you use the constant in both places. Bippity boppity booyah, you're done. And then you can just interact with this the same way that you would a dictionary, and this guy will be persisted. Yeah, help store app preferences in a key value store. So it's a very simple thing, and then you don't have to worry about where it ends up going. And if you are interested, right, it does integrate with the Apple and iOS stuff. Yeah. Yeah, and it is worth noting, because this is why you generally want to go through this rather than just writing your own file, because like uninstalling the app would remove it, unless you're on Android 6.0 API level 23 or later with auto backup feature. Like there's all these weird cases of stuff like that when you do cross-platform stuff. It just gets weird. Okay, so we wanted to push this up, and for updating the version numbers, I am willing to bet if we run this will probably work. Let's see, what are the variables in here that are being used? There are none. It just increments. So if I pull this out, right, and I take this guy up to the root, and I go, hey, give me a new file. That's not at the root. That's not what I asked for. Do what I said. Test.ps1, right? If we just slap this into here, if I were to run this, I should see a file change, specifically in the GitHub workflows get versions, which I don't see a file change to, which is not great. API 34. Probably means there's not enough output of this thing. Oh, I probably need to save the file for it to do something. Let's try this again, this time with the file content saved. That makes a much better thing. Okay, so it did rev the versions, and it did set the versions inside of here properly. So that's the entire point of this PowerShell script, is after a release, I want to bump all the versions up so that my nightly release picks up a bumped version number, right? And it always just bumps up the minor because there are no changes yet, and then it leaves it up to me to actually, be intelligent about when to bump other things. We revert this. Okay, so the question then is, why did my permissions fail when I ran said script here? Because I would like my GitHub CLI to use my auth token. and I think there is documentation for this, but I also think that I can cheat and go, where's my Copilot?